Another Niners win, almost. 2-minute warning right now down in Santa Clara, and as we speak, Brock Purdy is in for a touchdown to put the 49ers out in front, 34-16, 1 minute and 50 seconds left. This game is all but over. The 49ers moments away from a 4-0 beginning to their 2023 regular season. You're listening to Overtime right here on 95.7 The Game. My name is Mark Grandy, joined as always by Sterling Bennett. Sterling, I tweeted it out earlier. I'm officially starting the Christian McCaffrey MVP campaign. 4 touchdowns. It could have been 5. They elected not to give him the ball at the goal line here
Kyle.
on the final possession. But McCaffrey, 20 carries, 106 yards for 3 touchdowns. Also 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. He was a machine in this game. He wills the 49ers to a victory. 34-16 is the score at the moment. Under 2 minutes left in Santa Clara. There'll be an extra point added on here with the extra point momentarily. But another incredible win for the San Francisco 49ers. And Sterling, it was Christian McCaffrey today. 4 touchdowns, could have easily been 5.
I don't want to hear about Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. All I want to hear about is Christian McCaffrey. 4 touchdowns on the day, the most since Raheem Mostert in the NFC Championship game in 2019. Christian McCaffrey might be the best player in football, offense and defense. Nick Bosa, Defensive Player of the Year last year. I'm talking Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year. Christian McCaffrey, MVP. Give Christian McCaffrey the key to the city. He looks so good and is right now the best offensive player in football, Mark.
Well, I mean, oftentimes the MVP goes to the best player, generally it's the quarterback, but the best player, the most valuable player on the best team in the league. The 49ers are 4-0 and haven't had a nervous game yet. They've controlled every single game they've played in, and Christian McCaffrey has been incredible in every single one of those games. So logic follows. Your most important, your most dynamic, your most valuable player on offense on the best team in the league. I'll argue, Sterling, the Niners are the best team in the league, and Christian McCaffrey is their most important offensive player. It's nothing against anyone else. It's nothing against Purdy, who was great again today. Brandon Aiyuk, we weren't sure if he was going to play.
Great today.
He was really, really good today. You didn't have a ton of touches from Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, but when they had the ball, they were effective, picking up third down conversions, moving the chains. But Christian McCaffrey is just at a different level. If Brandon Aiyuk is a star, if Brock Purdy is a star, if Deebo Samuel is a star, Christian McCaffrey is a supernova. He's incredible. Wow. He's just on a different level. This dude is remarkable. It's hard to even describe how good he is because you're not doing it justice. He is the perfect football player, and he shows it every single week. 4 touchdowns today. And I know he worked hard. He was out there. I saw him getting his neck adjusted at one point on the sideline.
A massage.
He carried a heavy load 100%. But he's ready for the next touch every single time. He never backs down from any challenge. He's incredible. And the fact that the 49ers acquired this guy at the deadline last year blows my mind, because he is the difference of this team being really good offensively and being legitimately the best offense in the league.
When the trade happened last year, we saw ESPN say, I'll give it a C+. No. Christian McCaffrey, the trade gets an A++. He has been the defining player of this team. As soon as this team got Christian McCaffrey, plugged him in, he can pass the ball, he can run the ball, he can receive the ball. He had 3 touchdowns coming into today. He had 4 in this game alone, 7 on the year thus far. And San Francisco right now, one of 2 teams still undefeated. Miami lost to Buffalo today. The Eagles squeaked one out against Washington earlier. And San Francisco, they have not entered a game as non-favorites. They haven't left a game without winning. San Francisco right now has been the most dominant team in football. I've never sat here and said, I'm worried, Marco. I'm so scared. No, I sat here and said, we got this. Want to know why? Because we have players like Brock Purdy, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, who did nothing today. Really, 3 touches on the day? George Kittle had 1 catch on 4th down, and that was pretty much it. Oh, and because of players like Christian McCaffrey, you can come in, you can plug him in anywhere. Honestly, if Brock Purdy went down, knock on wood, play him at quarterback.
Well, they did in the NFC Championship game last year.
Christian McCaffrey can do no wrong. He can do everything on the football field. Go to Merriam-Webster, and when it says NFL player, football player, whose face does it show? Mahomes? No. Hurts? No. It shows Christian McCaffrey. He's so good, Mark.
He's incredible. You're getting to a point where you're having a hard time even correctly, I don't know, describing the impact that he has on a football team. And it's probably influenced or increased his presence because he is surrounded by so much talent elsewhere. Like, you can't just focus on trying to slow down Christian McCaffrey, right? Because you have Brandon Aiyuk, who absolutely torched the Cardinals down the field all game long. I mean, you look at what he did, 6 catches, 148 yards, 6 for nearly 150. Talk about incredible efficiency for Brandon Aiyuk. That's nearly 25 per catch. 24.7 to be exact. He just was killing the Cardinals down the field. When you have a receiver like that who can take the top off of the defense, and I'm not saying Aiyuk is an incredible just go route threat where he's going to beat you for an 80-yard touchdown, but
he might be, though.
Maybe he develops into that. He's certainly an incredible route runner, and he'll kill you on a deep post if you just have a safety a little bit late coming over. That happened multiple times. But 6 for 148, you add in that element to this offense, you're worried about Deebo Samuel. We saw him take a reverse late in the game to pick up a nice gain and keep the chains moving and keep the clock rolling late in that 4th quarter. It's just so many things to worry about that McCaffrey's abilities, I think, and impact on this offense are increased, but it's taking nothing away from him. You're just seeing him at his purest form, which is just an incredible football player, and it's just a joy to watch him play, and amazing that it's for the team that we're both rooting for here.
What's more impressive to me is the fact that Brandon Aiyuk gets hurt against the Rams. You don't really miss him too much. Against the Giants, doesn't play at all. It's fine. We'll put up 30 more points against that defense.
No big deal.
Isn't that, not that great, but it's still an NFL defense. And today, coming in, well, the Cardinals beat the Dallas Cowboys. You might not have Deebo Samuel. What does Christian McCaffrey do? Says, get on my back. The San Francisco 49ers have 2, 3, maybe even 4 offensive players that you can put the ball and give it to them 15 times a game and say, go win us this football game. This is the best offense in football. And right now, there is not one defense in the NFL I can point to and say, yes, they might have a chance to stop this offense. And Brock Purdy quietly again, almost 300 yards through the air, still undefeated in his career. Like, this team is rolling. Kyle Shanahan has this offense just steamrolling every defense they play. 35 points, 4 straight games over 30 points scored.
They didn't get even 30, though, Sterling. Come on.
Round numbers.
30 points in week 1, week 2, week 3.
The game isn't over yet. It can be 42 for all we know.
That's true.
I mean, this offense is humming at the highest level we've ever seen under Kyle Shanahan. This offense right now, like, I cannot think of one team, Philadelphia, Kansas City, the Cowboys, like the top echelon teams. Like this offense can go toe-to-toe with the 70-point Miami Dolphins, and this defense is 10 times better than their defense. This is the most complete team in the NFL right now, and it shows being 4-0 on the year, going into week 5 against Dallas, and we're sitting here saying it's going to be at home, and we're going to be favorites once again.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is the first time in franchise history the 49ers have scored at least 30 points in their first 4 games of the season against the Steelers, against the Rams, against the Giants, and now against the Arizona Cardinals. Score right now down in Levi's Stadium is 35-16. Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals, we can talk more about them later. Honestly, I've been impressed specifically with Josh Dobbs. They're driving a little bit. Maybe they get a touchdown here or at least a field goal to change the final score.
They stink.
There's less than a minute left. This game is over. Niners 35, Cardinals 16 right now. Niners moments away from improving to 4-0, and you're locked into overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. Want to give us a call? We want to hear from you. I know a lot of you're probably still at Levi's Stadium right now, but you can hit us up, 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line and Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. We're keeping an eye on both of those chats. And speaking of those chats, on the YouTube chat, Rakib with a $5 super chat says, I'm so sick of the national perspective that the 49ers are just as good as any team out there. Sorry, this is the best team in the NFL. Rakib, I agree with you. At least through 4 weeks, Sterling, and there's still a couple of games left to be played here in week 4, Sunday night and tomorrow night as well. You could maybe think, Eagles, better team. Maybe you're still on the Dolphins bandwagon. Maybe what the Bills did to the Dolphins today changes your mind. Obviously, the Chiefs have still been impressive, bouncing back from their week 1 loss. All I'll say, Sterling, first, I agree with Rakib, but I think one thing that you can't argue is the Niners have been the most impressive team through 4 weeks. You can't argue that. Maybe you think someone else is better ultimately, but who has been the most impressive team through 4 games? Far and away, it's the Niners.
This is the same defense the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard and CeeDee Lamb, all good to great players, could only muster 16 points. San Francisco scored more points against this Cardinals defense in the first half of this game than the Dallas Cowboys
and they only had 3 drives in the first half.
The San Francisco look, you can point to Patrick Mahomes being the X-Factor quarterback, already hurt this team once in the Super Bowl. You can point to Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. That's still a really good team out there on the East Coast. Right now, the NFC goes through San Francisco. And I'm pretty confident that when the season's over with and we're all said and done, that the Super Bowl, albeit it's going to be in Vegas this year, might as well go through San Francisco. This team has played so well. And again, 35 points, averaging 30 points a game. The defense can still play better. There's still some issues here and there. Ambry Thomas didn't play great today. There's still certain things. Health is an issue. Once Deebo Samuel gets healthy, why couldn't this be 42 points, 45 points? Like, the Niners offense is so great that any given Sunday, Thursday, and Monday, they have so many weapons that it's going to be someone different every single game. And within that, the most consistent part has been Brock Purdy, who again today, almost perfect through the air. 2 incompletions the entire game?
My God.
Like Brock Purdy, for Mike Florio to call him Brock Turdy. Well, hey, Mike Florio, Brock Turdy's 4-0 this year, my friend. Brock Turdy's leading the best team in the NFC. And come week 13 in Philadelphia, hey, Philly, we want the heat. We want the smoke. Hey, Dallas, we want the smoke. Come prove you're better than us, because right now, the NFC runs through San Francisco.
Yeah, by the way, there is officially a final score down in Santa Clara. 35-16 is the final. The 49ers forced a turnover on downs, took 1 knee, and it was Sam Darnold, by the way, who came in to take the knee, not Brock Purdy. The 49ers win.
Sam Darnold has gotten snaps in 3 of San Francisco's 4 games this year.
That's how
impressive they've been.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. 35-16 is the final score. The 49ers win. It's their 14th consecutive regular season win. Man. Tying their franchise record. There
you go, and there's the horn.
14 straight regular season wins. This one is 35-16. Sterling, there was a point in the third quarter where it was a 5-point game. 21-16. The Cardinals got a stop out of halftime, went down the field, scored a touchdown, and an incredible 99-yard touchdown drive led by Josh Dobbs, who, again, I was largely impressed by today. He's good.
He's a gamer.
He's extremely confident. Only been down there in Arizona for a month. I was impressed by him. That cut it to a 21-16 lead in favor of the 49ers. And then they just go down and dominate the rest of the game. An 8-play, 75-yard drive that culminates with a 2-yard Christian McCaffrey run into the end zone. That was his 4th touchdown. Then the defense forces another stop, and the 49ers go 14 plays, 77 yards. They milk 7 minutes and 14 seconds off the clock. Brock Purdy, a quarterback sneak for the touchdown to make it 35-16. That was the final score. This game got a little hairy there midway through the third quarter, and then the Niners control the rest of the game, but I've been most impressed by situational football by this Niner team in moments, and what they did on that last drive. You're up by a couple of scores, you get the ball with 10 minutes left on the clock in the fourth quarter, you kill 7 minutes and 14 seconds off the clock, and you end it with a touchdown, 100% sealing the game. That sort of drive shows the 49ers' ability to kill you with the big play. We saw it with Aiyuk. We've seen it with McCaffrey. We've seen it from Deebo Samuel. But when they need to, when they're sitting on a lead and you want to just kill the clock and ice the game, they can do that too. They showed that on that last drive. This offense can beat you in a number of different ways, and they showed that today.
Well, the talk of Brock Purdy can't throw deep, misses 3 deep balls against the Rams. 3 passes today over 25 yards, 42, 35, and 25, all to Brandon Aiyuk. Now, I get it. This defense in the Cardinals is not great. Number 15th ranked coming into this game. I get it. People are going to say, well, they haven't played a good team all year long. Pittsburgh can't score against the Texans and whatever. Right now, San Francisco sits 4-0, and after this game, 2-0 in the NFC West. A commanding division lead. And I'm sitting here saying, this team could play better. And the offense right now, I could argue, I don't want to say carrying the defense, but in previous years it's been, the defense has to hold their opponent to 13 to 14 points a game. No, this defense can give up 30 and we're going to score 35. That's how good this Niners team is right now. And look, Brock Purdy again, 13.5 yards through the air in each attempt, rating 134.6. I mean, look, Brock Purdy right now is playing like a top 10 quarterback. He looks like the man, the guy, and every game that goes by, we are vindicated in what Kyle Shanahan, when he said he's the real deal. Today, Brock Purdy, 20 for 21, 283 yards, almost a consecutive 300-yard passing yard performance. This guy, I mean, I get it. Last pick in the draft, you don't want to give him too much hype, but I'm watching quarterbacks that are supposed to be better than him play like garbage.
There's been so much bad quarterback play in the league so far.
Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick. Purdy beat him. Matthew Stafford, first overall pick, 2008 or 9, beat him. Brock Purdy is beating good quarterbacks, and he's crushing bad teams. It's what you're supposed to do. This team continues to not play down to their opponent and say, look, you're in our house, you're in our home, you ain't leaving with the dub. We're handing out L's, right? 4 in a row. San Francisco continues to roll. 35 points today, Mark. 35.
I mean, honestly, is this a hot take? Josh Dobbs put up the best opposing quarterback performance against the Niners this year. I know Stafford was good, really good for the first half.
Threw 2 picks in that game.
Then turned the ball over. I mean, Josh Dobbs today, 28 for 41, threw the ball a ton because they got down. 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. But that's a pretty good day.
That's Josh Dobbs, right? Yeah. Where no interceptions, not going to give the game away. But that goes to prove the point of that.
He kept them in the game.
And that's what he's done through 4 games so far. What are they, 2-2 on, or 1-3 on the year, excuse me? But they should have beat the Giants and blew that lead late in the second half.
This was the first game they didn't have a lead at halftime, and they're now 1-3.
This is the first game their defense allowed a touchdown on the first drive of the game. Like, I know the Cardinals on paper aren't great. We have to give them some respect. They beat the Dallas Cowboys by power rankings through 3 weeks or 2 weeks. We're the number 1 team in football. This Cardinals team, who San Francisco beat by 19 points, almost 20 points, beat the Dallas Cowboys. This Niners team right now, they're incredible. Like, the NFC runs through them, and right now, the NFL might run through them.
No, yeah, they've been absolutely incredible, 100%. And it goes back to what we saw on the YouTube chat from Rakib. They are the best team in the NFL. I argue at the very least, even if you think Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, maybe even the Cowboys got a dominant win over the Patriots today. Maybe you think those teams are still better. But through a month of the season, 4 weeks of the season, the Niners have been the most impressive. They have looked the best so far. Now, 4 weeks of the season, about a quarter of the regular season, things can change. But at this point, they have been the most impressive team in the NFL. And to your point, which makes it scary, I think, for the rest of the league, every single game, you can pinpoint not just a thing here or there, not just one drive, not just one mistake. You can pinpoint like a whole quarter of football, a handful of moments where it wasn't great, right? Like, this was a 5-point game in the third quarter. You turn around, you blink, and suddenly they win by 19 points. Like, this wasn't a one. The Niners have yet to play a perfect. I mean, it's difficult to play a perfect game. They haven't been dominant through 4 quarters yet. They've been dominant for 3, and you kind of let up a little bit for a quarter. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm worried about that or anything, but they've yet to put together a 100% complete performance. Final drive of the first half for Arizona, they go down and get a touchdown. First drive for Arizona, the second half, they go down, get a touchdown. That was a moment where the Niners defense looked gettable, and the Cardinals converted, and they took advantage of that opportunity, and they scored 2 of their touchdowns, their only touchdowns in this game on those 2 drives. There were moments where, as a 49er fan, you're thinking, the offense needs to go down and score. It's only a 5-point game against the lowly Cardinals midway through the third quarter. Then what do? They play a perfect game the rest of the way. So I say all that just to say this team hasn't put together their best game over 4 quarters just yet, and yet they're still 4-0, the most impressive performance through a month of football in the entire league.
I got a text when the Cardinals were only down by 5. It was like, what's going on? Like, panic mode.
Sound the alarms.
Like, okay, like we have to fix this. And right now, I sat there on the couch and I said, I have no worry.
Deep breath.
That this offense is going to take care of this. They're going to score, put some points down, and make it a 12-point game. And they did. Where in previous years, it was like, we might get 3 here. Oh, you got to make sure there's an interception here. Where now it's like, Purdy's going to be perfect throughout the game, or, one incomplete pass. He'll hit Aiyuk for a big play. Give it to Debo for an 8-yard run. Christian McCaffrey will carry the ball 15, 20 times a game, and you'll put some points on the board. But now it's like almost every single drive, if it's not 7 points,
you're disappointed.
You're like, how did we not score a touchdown here? Because this offense is humming. It just feels like a well-oiled machine. And even when San Francisco gets in a tight, close game where they're only up by maybe 1 score, it's like, I have no worry. This offense is going to come up clutch with the quarterback playing the best football he's ever played his entire career, with an offense that, under Kyle Shanahan's, averaging 32 points, 31.5, whatever it is a game now. Like, Kyle Shanahan, if they do not win a Super Bowl, I get it's only 1 month, if they don't win one this year with this team and this offense, that may be one of the biggest blunders in sports, because this team is playing so well right now.
31.25 points per game, to be exact. Just doing the quick math in my head,
31.3.
Because it's 30, 30, 30, not 35, right? Anyway, yeah, I mean, you're right. And another super chat from Rakib on the YouTube chat. Shout out Rakib for $5 says, the vision of Kyle and John is coming together. Niners' biggest enemy is injuries, not a team in the NFL. I think he meant to go on to say not a team in the NFL, on the level of the 49ers. I agree, Rakib. I mean, this was a thought I had, and I shared it with you after week 1. If the 49ers luck out and get a relatively injury-free season, this team is going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they're going to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. That's how talented they are.
Kyle and John, that being Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they got plenty of criticism for the offseason. Does anybody care now? Nick Bosa has 1 sack so far this year. Was okay today, but the number 1 rated player in football on defense for PFF. Javon Hargrave has, 3 sacks this year? A huge one on third down today to force a punt by Arizona, who's marching down the field on your 43-yard line. The offseason means nothing now. We're a month in. They're 4-0. And honestly, the vision they had for this team and going out and paying for an elite defensive tackle is paying off. Getting Bosa back in the building is paying off. Saying, hey, Trey Lance, you're not the guy. Where do you want to go? And trading him away and bringing in Sam Darnold, who I know you don't want you never wanted to play, but Brock Purdy is playing like a top 10 quarterback. Your offense is scoring the most points per game, minus the Dolphins' 70-point game against the Broncos last week in the NFL. They look better than Philadelphia. The Eagles right now are not playing their best football, and I can argue they may never get there this year because they look like they're stuck in the mud. They're winning games. They're undefeated still, but Washington took them to OT. The Patriots, who got freaking shell-shocked by the Cowboys today, they took them late in the game.
Yeah, they could have won that game.
And the
easily.
Vikings should have won that game. Right now, San Francisco has been the most dominant team in football. AFC, NFC, Taylor Swift, Ed Sheeran, doesn't matter. The Niners are the best team in football right now, Mark.
Yeah, hard to argue with that, 100%. What do you guys think? Hit us up, 888-957-9570. That's the number to dial if you want to join overtime here on 95.7 The Game. If you're filing out of Levi's right now, if you're getting in your car and sitting in that traffic for a couple of hours, get on here with us on overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. Again, the number 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. And as always, we're keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Again, the final score, the 49ers knock off the Arizona Cardinals 35-16. And I love the way the 49ers started this game. First of all, they force a 3-and-out for the Cardinals, and then they go down the field methodically. A 6-yard run by McCaffrey. Debo gets a few yards, 6 more yards from Christian McCaffrey. Then they throw it to Aiyuk, who finds 16 yards over the middle part of the field. 2 straight throws, 12 and 10 to Christian McCaffrey, plus a penalty. Then a Christian McCaffrey touchdown run. They get into the end zone. They take a 7-0 lead early. And then what do? They force another punt by Arizona. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner were everywhere early in this game. The Cardinals were trying to get the edge, but the speed of the Niners linebackers was on display, did not allow them to get to the edge. They force a punt. Niners get the ball right back. But what happens? They face a 4th and 4 from the Arizona 39. And what do the Niners decide to do on 4th and 4?
Tell me.
They go for it.
Ooh.
On 4th and 4.
Kyle.
I'm going to have to dig deep and do some research. Didn't have enough time here before the show to look into this. How many times has Kyle Shanahan gone for a 4th and 4 or more, aside from like a gotta-have-it drive at the end of a game? I feel like when he's gone for it, and he's been generally conservative in this area of the game, usually when he goes for it on kind of like a neutral situation like this, where you could go, you could punt, you could take a long field goal, it's been 4th and 2, 4th and 1. He decides to go for it on 4th and 4. A quick throw out to George Kittle to the right side. Really an easy conversion. It was Kittle's only catch of the game. It went for 9 yards. Niners moved the chains. Guess what? A little bit later, Christian McCaffrey into the end zone. 18-yard run on a swing pass out to the right, officially
He's
a run.
hurdling guys out there.
He hurled the defender. Deebo Samuel loved it, celebrated with him in the end zone afterwards, and before you can even blink, it's 14-0 49ers. That aggressiveness from Kyle Shanahan, Sterling, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. After they went for it early in week 1, they went for it on 4th and goal week 2 against the Rams. They go for it 4th and 4 from the Arizona 39. I was shocked. I was surprised. Shanahan normally attempts a long field goal. Right. Maybe you take a penalty, you line up to go for it, you take the penalty, and then you just punt it, try to pin them deep like they did a couple of times in this game. They went for it, and they immediately turned it into a touchdown. I absolutely love the aggressiveness from Shanahan, and I've been waiting for this so long. So long. I'm so incredibly happy that Shanahan, it seems like, has turned a corner in this regard. His aggressiveness has definitely been turned up this season, and if this continues, I said it 2 weeks ago, if this continues, the Niners will benefit greatly as a result. They are simply too good of an offense to punt when it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 3. If you can't get me 4 yards in any given play with all those weapons, Niners, I'm sorry. You don't deserve to win. Go for it more often, and Shanahan is doing that. I am so incredibly happy. It's finally happening.
It finally feels like, not that we have a Mahomes, but it feels like the offense as a whole is Patrick Mahomes, where 4th down, just go for it every single time. It feels like that no defense can stop this offense on 4 consecutive downs. There's no way you're going to stop
yes.
these stars, where even if Kyle Shanahan goes for a field goal with Jake Moody, 57 yards against the Giants. He's going to make it.
Yeah.
Like this team.
He was perfect again today.
Legatron coming up big.
Didn't attempt a field goal, but I saw that on the Comcast Business text line earlier. I forget where it went.
That's right here. 510. Another boring, perfect game from Legatron.
Until CMC can show he can kick the ball, Legatron is still the man.
Hop on board, folks. Jake Moody, Legatron. Now, he did have the one kickoff out of bounds, but we can scrub it. It's okay. Jake Moody erase it from your brain. It's fine, but this Niners team right now with this offense, like we all talked about, they have to get the quarterback. They have to find the elite quarterback. And you can think what you want of Brock Purdy. You can call him whatever name you want to call him, Mike Florio. But right now, this offense feels like that whoever lines up across from them cannot stop them on any play. Whether it's McCaffrey or Aiyuk or Deebo Samuel or Purdy himself with the quarterback sneak to end the game for a touchdown, it feels like that their confidence is so high, and even coming into this game, you could tell the energy was, we have not played football in 11 days, 10 days. We want to come out hot and on fire, and Shanahan's play calling, going for it on fourth down, proved that further that we're going to come out and be aggressive and put the Cardinals down early. Do not let them get any sense of life. Early in this game, 3 consecutive drives for San Francisco, 21 points. They came out today with a purpose to be aggressive, to score touchdowns, and say, this is our home, and we're going to be undefeated still.
Yeah, if you're listening to Overtime here on 95.7 The Game, Grandy and Sterling with you. A 35-16 win for the San Francisco 49ers. We want to hear from you. If you're filing out of Levi's right now, getting in your car down in Santa Clara, give us a call. We'll help you pass the time in that traffic. 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line. And again, we're keeping an eye on Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. The Niners offense as a whole was phenomenal in this game. 35 points. You mentioned Purdy, 20 for 21, 283 yards passing and a touchdown. McCaffrey was incredible, had 177 yards of all-purpose offense in this game. 20 carries, 70 catches, 4 total touchdowns. He was unstoppable. Aiyuk, 6 for 148. What stood out to you? Who was the star of this game? There's a lot to choose from. Obviously, McCaffrey found the end zone 4 times. He's going to be a popular pick. But let's focus for a moment, Sterling, on just the first half, because you could argue that first half was legitimately the perfect half of offense for the San Francisco 49ers. What they did in the first half, 3 drives. Only 3 drives. There were a lot of really long drives in the first half, so only 3 drives. 22 plays, 16 first downs, 205 yards of offense. That's about 9.3 yards per play. And on those 22 plays, they scored 21 points. That's almost a point per play by the offense in the first half. And Purdy, by the way, was 10 for 10 in the first half passing the ball. 0 incompletions. He's the first Niner quarterback to go 10 for 10 or better since Steve Young in 1994.
Who's that?
Just one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Steve Young.
Buccaneer legend, right?
Buccaneer legend. Yeah. Shout out BYU, Steve Young. Perfect first half for the 49ers offense. You literally could not have asked them to do any more. 3 drives, 3 touchdowns, 22 plays, 21 points, almost 10 yards per play in the first half. They were on point early, and there was a little bit of a lull to begin the third quarter, but they picked it up to close out the game as well. But that first half, I don't think I've seen this Niners offense play any better in a really long time, as we saw them do during that first half today.
There's always questions of, you haven't played in 11 days. Is there going to be some rust? You may not have Deebo Samuel. Only got, 1 touch in the first half himself. And so you come into the game and go, you should win. Your offense should look good. Your defense should look really good against this offense in Arizona. But the Niners in the first half of this game, they looked like a well-oiled machine. It felt like they had never missed a beat. They had come out of the Giants game or right into the Cardinals game. It felt like that in the first half against the Cardinals today, that not only was there a purpose to put up big number points and stop them on defense, but Brock Purdy was perfect until the third quarter with 10 minutes and 52 seconds left. Completed a career-high 22 consecutive passes dating back to the Giants game last Thursday. Like, if you want to say, Can you think of a perfect first half for San Francisco on offense and defense? Oh, being up 21-3 with your quarterback being perfect through almost 2.5 quarters. That is perfect Niners football. The defense looked phenomenal in this game. The Cardinals on their first 2 drives, 10 plays, 23 yards, and 2 punts. The offense again for San Francisco, 26 plays, 22 plays, 21 points.
Yeah.
This was the perfect first half for San Francisco against a team like the Cardinals who they're coming in high. They're confident. They're saying, we beat the Cowboys. We're a good team. No, you're not. Go back to Arizona in your 145-degree heat and suffer. Suffer on the plane back as San Francisco took it to you today, plucked every little feather off them Cardinal wings.
Yeah, dominant win for the 49ers. Again, the final score, if you're just joining us, 35-16 was the final. The Niners are now 4-0. Arizona falls to 1-3. Let's go to the phones. If you want to get in line, the number to call is 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line, and you can also get in on the action by hitting us up on Twitch and YouTube, twitch.tv/957thegame, youtube.com/957thegame, Twitch and YouTube powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Let's go to Jaiade. Jaiade in San Pablo. You're leaving Levi's Stadium, Jaiade. What'd you think of that Niners win today? You're on overtime on 95.7 The Game.
It's actually Jaime.
Oh, sorry about that, Jaime. What do you want to talk about? What'd you think of the Niners win today?
So, it feels very good to be able to watch your team and know that if they get scored on or the other team gets a field goal, that your team can come down the field easily and score points. When was the last time we had that? Like with Jimmy, I don't want to kick, the dog in the ground already. But with Jimmy, it just felt like whenever, something wasn't going our way, like, oh, my God, this game is going to get complicated. It's going to get complicated. With Purdy, with this offense, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like the game get complicated. It just feels like we keep scoring, and we keep going. It feels great. We haven't had this in a long time. It's a new feeling that we haven't had in a while. And I just feel like you guys are saying, I don't feel like there's a defense right now that can stop McCaffrey, can stop Kittle hasn't even been used. Kittle, Aiyuk, even Juszczyk back there, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, are you kidding me? Can we say early candidate for MVP? I mean, come on. This team is rolling. I love it. Bring the Cowboys on Sunday night. We will see you guys here.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jaime. Yeah, great call. I mean,
could San Francisco have, at this point through 4 games, 2 MVP candidates?
You go on McCaffrey and Purdy?
Yeah. When's the last time that's happened?
I mean, let's...
I know it's...
I don't want to get too ahead, but pretend that this team finishes, I don't know, like...
12-5.
Or even more. I was going to say like 14-3. Like,
okay.
If they are the one seed in the NFC, if they're the best record in the NFL, and you have a healthy season for McCaffrey, a healthy season for Purdy, both those two guys will finish in the top 5 of MVP voting.
When's the last time that's happened in San Francisco? Maybe
two finishers in top 5 of MVP?
Probably Steve Young and Jerry Rice in 1994.
Probably.
That's the last time I can think of.
Got to be very rare because you have to have, obviously, a good quarterback, and then you just have to have an otherworldly skill position or, in a rare case, defensive player. But that, almost never happens. It's crazy.
Mark,
I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
No, season's over right now, and they're winning the whole thing, Mark.
I do agree with Jaime. Something that he talked about is something that I've also identified, specifically with Brock Purdy. It goes to the offense as a whole as well, but you think back to in Purdy's starts or in his games, include the Miami game, where you felt like as a team, you're like, we're in a little bit of danger here. We need to get some points.
Yeah.
Like you think back to the Raiders game at the end of last regular season where they were down. They needed scores in the fourth quarter and overtime to win the game. The offense gets the ball. They start at the 20 or whatever the situation is, and you're like, all right, you better go down and get us some points. The same thing, I mean, even in the Thursday night game against Seattle last year, Purdy's first career road start, his second career start. The Niners, that was a dogfight. Niners were trailing, I believe, in the second or third quarter at one point. They come back. Purdy leads a touchdown drive. It happened in the playoffs. They were down at half against the Seahawks last year. It was a tight game against the Cowboys in the playoffs. And then you think to this moment, when the Niners were up by only 5, and the offense gets the ball right back, and you're worried, like, if we have to punt away, the Cardinals just went 99 yards down our throats. If we give them the ball back and they score again, we're suddenly losing in the second half at home against Arizona. What does the offense do? Calmly, they go down an 8-play, 75-yard drive. McCaffrey gets into the end zone. I think it's something that Jaime was talking about, and I've seen it as well. How many times have you felt like you needed a score from Purdy in the offense and he hasn't delivered? I think he's 100% in those situations. He has almost always delivered you at least a field goal, but more often than not, a touchdown when you feel like if you don't get one, the game could slip away from you.
Well, it's not even the first time this year. Rams going into halftime.
Right, 100%.
You're down 17-10. You got to get a touchdown. You don't want to give the Rams the ball back. Well, up 7 points at halftime.
And it was the Purdy sneak.
And what does Purdy do? Gets him downfield. Yes, he plays the dink and dunk. Give it to your stars. It works. It's not like it's not working.
They've scored 30 or more in every game. Why change?
I'm so done with the whole dink and dunk. It's so dumb. It's like Purdy has shown that, yes, he can dink and dunk, but guess what? He can also hit a three-pointer like Stephen Curry can. He can shoot from deep, 35 yards here, 42 yards there.
Beautiful throws to Aiyuk today.
Brock Purdy, by all intents and purposes, I think he's been better than Dak Prescott so far this year. Been better than top 10 quarterbacks this year.
He's been better than Trevor Lawrence this year.
Brock Purdy doesn't put up garbage time numbers like Kirk Cousins and other quarterbacks along those lines. That at the end of the day, end of the year, you go, well, Kirk Cousins had 4,500 yards and 38 passing touchdowns. Yeah, have him anywhere in the fourth quarter when the defense is playing prevent.
You see Kirk Cousins' pick six today?
Oh.
One of the worst throws I've seen a quarterback make in the NFL.
Worse than Fields' screen pass interception last week?
Okay, no, not as bad as that.
Worse than Trey Lance against the Broncos?
That's a different level of bad. But it was. I think it was the first drive of the game for the Vikings. They got all the way down, doorstep of the end zone. They're at maybe like the 4 or something like that.
I had Hawkinson today too.
Oh, that's rough. They won, but it was not. It was not a good game for the Vikings. And he throws to the left pylon. I think he was looking for Jefferson. Most likely, it's like the only
not Hawkinson, obviously.
And he throws it like 3 seconds too late, and the defensive back just steps in front of it and catches it in the end zone. Runs on the sideline a 100-yard pick six. They ultimately come back to win the game.
James Harrison.
I don't want to get too far away from the Niner game, but there has been some really bad quarterback play in the NFL, and Cousins has largely been very good this year. Was not very good today, but there's been so much bad quarterback play across the entire league. Whether you think that Brock Purdy is a result of the offense, he's the brainchild of Kyle Shanahan. He's only good because he has Debo and McCaffrey and Aiyuk and Kittle and all
system quarterback.
Whatever. Obviously, part of that is true. Like, he looks great, partly because the offense is great, 100%. But you cannot argue that he has not looked like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this year. You see Tua today? Not very good against the Bills' defense.
No.
He's been great the first 3 weeks. Brock Purdy has been consistent. He has not thrown an interception. He's hitting his receivers in stride. And to those thinking about the Rams game where he missed a few throws deep down the field in that game, there was one to Aiyuk where he threw it a little bit short. Aiyuk made a great adjustment and caught the ball. All the other throws down the field to Aiyuk, by the way, that bad throw still went for a completion. But
it's also called trusting your star to make the play.
For sure, but all of the other ones down the field, perfectly in stride. The back shoulder to Aiyuk, I think it was along the left sideline,
like third
the
down.
right sideline.
Yep.
I forget. I'm getting them. They're all jumbled in my head.
We won. Who cares?
A perfect back shoulder throw to Aiyuk, and you could tell Aiyuk knew what was coming. The connection that these guys have, and Brock Purdy putting it only where his receiver can get it. Brock Purdy's been incredible. Just so consistent, and he's not turning the ball over. He's getting the ball to his wide receivers, to his stars, to his playmakers. You can't ask for anything more. He's been incredible.
He doesn't look like the perfect quarterback. And I'm not calling him perfect by any means, but he's played the cleanest game of any quarterback so far. He's averaging over a touchdown every single day. His completion percentage has to be around, 68% now, 67% coming into the game.
20 for 21 today.
It's like, what else could you want? What more do people need to see? Oh, he missed some big throws against the Rams. He had 3 big throws today.
He didn't hit 300 yards today, Sterling, and only threw for 1 touchdown. You got to get at least 302 tuds. Come on.
The stats.
That's what it is.
Who cares? But we talked about this after the Rams game. What's going to happen?
I'm with you.
What's going to happen come week 8 when he doesn't hit 300 yards? And fans are sitting back saying, well, no, he only has 240 yards through the air. It's not good enough for me.
Well, when this team is 8-0 or 7-1.
And it may give some fans flashbacks, but everything we've seen has been better than every other quarterback that's been here in San Francisco since, I'll give Jeff Garcia some credit, the last quarterback for 4,000 yards through the air in this organization, but He's breaking records that Steve Young had and Joe Montana had. I'm not calling him those guys, but when you have a quarterback doing those things and is yet to lose a game and is not turning the ball over and is hitting receivers in stride, getting all-pro weapons the ball almost perfectly on every single play, letting them do work while he does work as well. This team right now, it's almost like Kyle Shanahan had Play-Doh and said, I'm going to make this amazing castle that's perfect and has this architecture is amazing. And he has. It's like everything is working at nearly 100% so far.
Well, it's crazy. He threw for 283 yards today, and we talked about kind of 300 as the benchmark. Like, oh, you as a quarterback, you had a great day, right? You throw for over 300. He only threw the ball 21 times. That's 13 and a half yards per attempt, not per completion. That's not yards per catch. That's yards per passing attempt.
Well, to go further, Josh Dobbs threw it 41 times, only 265 yards.
That's 6.5 yards per attempt. So, I mean, you just can't, obviously, you continue that efficiency through 40 passing attempts. It's not going to stay that high. Part of the reason why.
It might.
Maybe. Probably not. Part of the reason why you have so few passing attempts is because the Niners had their running game working incredibly well. And what does the defense have to do? They have to, of course, respect that, load the box. You're very scared of Christian McCaffrey. Oh, here comes Deebo Samuel on a reverse. You got to worry about that. What does it do? It opens up passing lanes down the field, which Brandon Aiyuk took advantage of today, and Brock Purdy made them pay. Again, 20 for 21. One incompletion for 283 yards. He did not turn the ball over, threw for a touchdown, ran for another touchdown, 13 and a half yards per passing attempt. Sterling, the 49ers threw the ball 21 times on average on those 21 times. Catch or no catch, on average, the 21 passing attempts, the Niners gained 13 and a half yards per passing attempt. That's broken. You don't see those numbers in the NFL. That's ridiculous.
What were the air yards, Mark? Do you know?
Oh, air yards. I mean, probably pretty good today.
It's like,
he aired the ball out today.
It's like who, right now, what Brock Purdy, he's moving in the pocket and finding receivers in stride. There was a play today where he finds McCaffrey for a touchdown. Play to his right, obviously it's a play action, looks to his right, has no one, fires back to his left, almost like he has a slingshot to his hip and just knows McCaffrey's going to be there and going to catch it and going to score. The chemistry right now it's like playing basketball where you just know you can have a no-look pass and yours guys is going to be right there. It's like the Warriors, like I was going to say in their heyday, but they still can win a championship this year. But when they're in there, they're 2 rings against the Cavs and whatever, and Curry's just throwing it left and right, and Iguodala's facilitating, and they're just hitting, Clay's hitting threes left and right from the wing, whatever. Yep. It feels like this offense right now, as Peter King said on this very station, has no positions and everyone is playing at an all-time level. I mean, I don't want to compare it to the Walsh era, right? But this feels like the closest thing to it when it comes to the offense and how they're playing right now.
35-16 is the final score. If you're leaving Levi's right now, we want to hear from you. 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line. And again, we're keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Let's go to Mitch in New Jersey. Mitch joins us here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Mitch, what's up? You're on with Grandy and Sterling. What'd you think of that Niners win?
Great win, great offense. I didn't see much of Deebo. Well, I think next Sunday night or next year, we're going to give it to the Cowboys, bring them down, start racing them. But I just got one question. What's going on with Bosa and Drake Jackson? Not are they hurry or something, or they were just double team? I didn't see any statistics in the game.
Gotcha, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, good question. Bosa hasn't really been in the backfield disrupting a ton of plays. He's only had the 1 sack, didn't have a sack today. Although on a Josh Dobbs fumbled snap, he was right there and looked like he was about to sack him. That might have taken away a sack from him there. Despite the fact, Sterling, and I think you can speak to some of the numbers better than I can, despite the fact that he hasn't really jumped off the page in terms of his statistics yet today. And less so for Drake Jackson. Drake Jackson had 3 sacks week 1. He had a good game again today.
Drake Jackson had 3 quarterback hits and 2 tackles for losses today, I believe.
He was good.
He was really good.
Nick Bosa is still absolutely dominating offensive lines, and he's controlling the game from the line of scrimmage. He's not getting insane sack tackles for loss numbers, but when you are as dominant as he is and you have 2 offensive linemen plus maybe a running back or a tight end to chip him, you're just opening up so many lanes for others. We just talked about Drake Jackson. Javon Hargrave had his 3rd sack of the game. Eric Armstead was, bull rushing the center and a couple of the guards throughout this game. Nick Bosa, despite the fact that he only has that 1 sack still, Sterling, from last week, he's still having a fantastic season. I mean, one of the highest graded players via PFF so far this year, right?
I think he's the highest defensive graded player in football. Now, a lot of that's run defense because Bosa is so good against the run.
It's underappreciated.
And coming into this game, the Cardinals were going to run the football. Yes, overall, over 105 yards. Josh Dobbs had 48 of those. James Conner came in as the 4th highest leading rusher in football, 52 yards on the ground. They held, through 4 games, one of the most used offensive players at 33% of the Arizona Cardinals offensive snaps to 11 carries, 12 total touches, only 56 total yards. They held the Cardinals' star, their way to victory, to almost nothing. A rather unimpactful game. A lot of that because Nick Bosa and Fred Warner being great, Dre Greenlaw being great. And it's not like the Cardinals this year have allowed a lot of sacks. Josh Dobbs is great at not getting sacked and not turning the ball over. So if the sacks were high today, whatever, what happens is you're efficient. You make Josh Dobbs beat you. 41 attempts through the air. And what could he not do? He could not beat you with his arm. His legs, sure. Overall in the day, Josh Dobbs had over 300 yards by himself. If you're allowing Josh Dobbs to do that, fine. Josh Dobbs is not going to be the reason why the Cardinals win a football game. I'm sorry. But Bosa and Drake Jackson, they secure the edges, allowing guys like Armstead and Hargrave and Kinlaw, guys have to have a big game against the Cardinals offensive line, who have one of the worst rated left guards in football in Wilkerson and one of the worst centers in the NFL, who was on the field, off the field, on the field again, off the field late in this game. San Francisco Stars, although the box score can say goose eggs next to their name, with Bosa and Jackson, their job was to let Hargrave and Armstead eat, and they did today.
And they did. Yeah, Bosa 0 tackles in this game, but he had 4 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in there. He's been close to a number of sacks so far this year, just hasn't quite gotten home, aside from that one time last week where the Giants inexplicably did not block him and just ushered him right to Daniel Jones. Exactly. Not a good strategy there, but that's his only sack of the year. But he has still had a gigantic impact every single week, even though when you think back to week 1, it was just days after he signed his contract extension and just after 2 days, 3 days with the team. So he's only going to continue to improve. With that said, he has not been bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's still one of the best defensive players. You could argue the best defensive player in the NFL. The numbers don't exactly back that up, but so much of football is about more than just numbers. We can talk more about that on the other side. We've got to hit a break here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. If you want to get in on the action, if you're leaving Levi Stadium, you're in your car outside of Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, give us a call, 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line. And join the party on Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. It's Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. The Niners beat the Cardinals 35-16. More coming up after this, right here on 95.7 The Game.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living.
Niners are now 4-0 on the 2023 regular season. You heard that one there was the Christian McCaffrey 18-yard touchdown run. That made it 14-0 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. Christian McCaffrey put together an MVP performance today. 4 touchdowns. Could have been 5. That one, though, was the highlight. The 18-yard touchdown run. It was officially a run. Kind of a backwards pass to the right flat from Purdy to McCaffrey. Caught the pass, turned upfield, leapt over a defender, and then ran all the way into the end zone. A remarkable touchdown for Christian McCaffrey. One of his 4 touchdowns today for the 49ers.
20 carries, 106 yards on the ground, almost 5.3 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, and he didn't really have this gigantic play. We've seen in previous games where he has, 50-yard play, a 45-yard run. Today, it's 18 yards. He just over and over, relentlessly running through the most since Raheem 19 against the Green Bay Packers, where all San Francisco had to do was run the football. The difference is they got a quarterback now that, for as good as Jimmy Garoppolo was, Brock Purdy has blown what he's done out of the water. I don't know what it is, through 11 games, through whatever the number is so far. Brock Purdy has taken this offense to new heights. Christian McCaffrey, though, we're talking from a top 10 offense to the number 3 scoring offense in football with Christian McCaffrey leading the way.
Yeah, 100%. Let's hear from his head coach. This is Kyle Shanahan, asked if he imagined Christian McCaffrey would be this good when they traded for him midway through last season.
You hope so. He's that good of a player just watching him and stuff. I think the whole league does. But then when you get someone, or when you're around him personally, then you realize how much better he is just because of the intangibles that he has and really his whole makeup and how he works each week and how he prepares for a season from what he's been doing with us and OTAs all the way till now. He's as much of a professional as I've been around, and in order to make trades, you usually have to give a little bit more to get people. And then there's always a risk that they won't work out. There's injuries in this league. There's tons of stuff. But what you like to do is know who the guy you're betting on, and he's a dude that I think everyone would bet on. So
there's Shanahan on his superstar running back, Christian McCaffrey. Again, you just lost for words. It's hard to describe what this guy is doing right now. Every single game he's played for the San Francisco 49ers, every single start he's made, he's gotten into the end zone. And he got into the end zone 4 times today, and it could have easily been 5, Sterling. This dude is ridiculous.
Christian McCaffrey right now is the best offensive weapon in football. And is this one of the greatest midseason trades of all time? I know they gave up so many picks, and I get there was injury history. Christian McCaffrey.
What were the picks?
It was like a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick. Compensatory picks, really. Picks you get back again this year and the year after that and the year after that. San Francisco essentially traded a basket full of bread and got a freaking golden egg, and we're like, oh my goodness. San Francisco gave away almost, I don't want to say nothing, but by how this team operates in the draft and signing players and letting them go and getting picks back for them, it's almost like they just gave up 1 2nd-round pick for Christian McCaffrey. You're telling me you get a 1 touchdown, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 touchdowns a game player for a 2nd-round pick? My goodness, this might be, the Panthers can draft whoever they want with those picks. And barring it being the next franchise quarterback, they got Bryce Young. We'll see how he does. That wasn't with one of the picks they got from the San Francisco 49ers. This may be a fleece by San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, and just imagine what this offense and what this team would look like without him. They would still be a good team.
Jordan Mason's playing running back today. And I like Jordan Mason, but he ain't giving you 4 touchdowns a game.
Elijah Mitchell out today, in case you missed it. That would have been gigantic news last year without Christian McCaffrey. We got to rely on either J.P. Mason or TDP, Ty Davis-Price. But no, you got McCaffrey. And, of course, the knock on McCaffrey was, can you trust that he's going to stay healthy? He has been available for every single snap since he's put on the Niners helmet. This dude has been an Iron Man, and it's not just been available. How many times is the talk of the town afterwards is, you got to give him a few less touches, Kyle. Please, we got to save this dude. He has not backed down from any challenge, and something that Kyle Shanahan was asked post-game today just a little bit ago was, can you imagine life without CMC?
Can you imagine what it would be like if you didn't get McCaffrey?
No, don't ever say that.
But that's how good this dude has been. Could you imagine this Niners team without him? Of course, they'd still be a good team. They have too much talent elsewhere. They still have an incredible defense, and you have Aiyuk and Debo and Kittle and also, Brock Purdy, who's turning into a really good quarterback at the league in this league. But if you didn't have McCaffrey, Sterling, this would not be the most impressive team in the league. You might not be 4-0. Maybe you lose, in Los Angeles week 2. Who knows? Like, it's impossible to tell. But what he provides this offense, it's incalculable. You can't really put a number on it because he just makes everyone around him so much better. And, of course, he himself is the best running back in the league.
For as good as Brock Purdy has been, which he's been really good through however many games he's played so far, hasn't lost one yet and looks like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL so far, Christian McCaffrey, is it weird to say that he was the player that Kyle Shanahan's offense needed to unlock it? Yeah, you can point to and say, well, if they had Mahomes, they'd be so good for so long. And I get all that stuff, but the fact that a running back, we're in the NFL right now, are pretty much worth nothing. You have teams not wanting to pay Jonathan Taylors and Dalvin Cooks, and the Chargers are like, hey, Austin Eckler, you're great, but we might trade you in a year. San Francisco's saying, no, we'll trade a handful of picks and we'll pay every penny for Christian McCaffrey because what he does is worth it. He is the most dynamic running back, almost wide receiver in football. Like, if you ask me, Sterling, Mark, who are the top 3 offensive players, non-quarterbacks in football? Jefferson, maybe Nick Chubb, and Christian McCaffrey. And I can argue McCaffrey's number 1 on that list.
McCaffrey's in that group, 100%.
Yes.
Jefferson is in the group. There's probably a fight for the 3rd spot.
Yeah.
But those 2 are 1 and 2 in whatever order you want. I mean, Jefferson is going to be one of the, when it's all said and done, he's still so young in his career, one of the greatest wide receivers to ever do it, and McCaffrey is certainly on that ledger as a running back. I agree. Let's get back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570 is the number to call. It's also the Comcast Business text line. This is Jonathan right outside of Levi's Stadium. Jonathan, this was your first time at Levi's. What'd you think of that 4-touchdown performance from Christian McCaffrey? You're on Overtime here with Grandy and Sterling.
Hey, guys. First-time listener, also first-time caller. I'm kind of in a unique situation. I had a great time. Christian
Awesome.
McCaffrey definitely amazed me on the field there with 4 touchdowns. Fun story. I'm actually from Minneapolis, Minnesota,
Wow.
and I came here for work, and, it's fun to cheer for a winning team. I know the Vikings kind of got the first win today, but, we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the 49ers.
That's right.
Crazy situation. I came here for work, got to enjoy the game with a coworker, Roberto. He's right here with me. It's nuts. I can't believe I even got on this call, to be honest with you. But, Purdy, he's crazy. He came from Iowa. He's kind of close to that Minneapolis area. But, McCaffrey, he's an animal. 4 touchdowns today. That's crazy. Aiyuk, coming off of injury, going for 150 on the field. It's crazy. The Niners are loaded these days. You guys mentioned Jefferson. I mean, I know Minnesota's got Jefferson, but we're not performing. We're 1-3. We're letting these games go. And the Niners, it's wild to cheer for a winning team. And out here in the San Fran area, I've been in California for less than 48 hours at this point. And California is wild. San Francisco is winning, and you guys are winning big. You guys aren't letting these games go. It's like you guys don't even have competition in the NFC. Who's your competition now? Philly? I mean, that's about it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, a good call, Jonathan. And shout out to Jonathan and your coworker, Roberto, as well. It sounds like the 49ers are good enough to win over some Vikings fans.
He's tired of watching Kirk Cousins. That's probably why.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like we're 1-3.
No, so Jonathan, we're just playing around. But, I mean,
No, we're not.
I might be playing around. I don't know about Sterling. But, I mean,
No, we are.
competition in the NFC, I mean, it's from the beginning, it's been a 3-team race, and we knew that all off season, right? Niners, Eagles, and Cowboys. There could be some surprises here and there. Rams 2-2. You're not really scared about them in the postseason.
Seattle's still good.
Seattle is what? 2-1. They haven't played yet this week.
Play on Monday.
Yeah, they play tomorrow night.
Vanilla Vic.
The surprise maybe of the NFC so far has been the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 3-1.
Baker Mayfield.
3-1. They just went into New Orleans and won today. I know Craig, who normally runs the board here for overtime, was down in New Orleans watching that game. He's happy about his Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 3-1.
He's probably drunk out of his mind right now.
Probably. Shout out Craig.
He sure was saying, Baker! You're my boy!
But I mean, besides those two, and you could argue you haven't been impressed with Dallas, you haven't been that impressed with Philadelphia, despite the fact that they are still 4-0. Dallas is 3-1. Niners are 4-0. No one else is on anywhere near the level of those three, let alone the level of the 49ers. So I think Jonathan is right to a degree. There is still competition, but it's just relatively limited competition. There are 3 possible teams who I think even have any chance of winning the NFC this year. If it's not one of the Niners, Cowboys, and Eagles, I'll be shocked. I would put so much money on one of those 3 teams to win the NFC this year. Might be a little dangerous. I might not feel great about it.
You can bet the Cardinals.
Oh God, put $1 on that and pay out like $1,500.
There you go.
But the point is, and Jonathan I think is right to an extent. There's just not a ton of competition for the Niners in the NFC. They should run away with the NFC West. They're 4-0 right now. If the Seahawks are to lose tomorrow on Monday Night Football, the Niners will have a 2-game lead in the NFC West already. There's not a ton of competition for this team in the division, and then around the rest of the conference, it's really just the Eagles and the Cowboys. And to this point, I would disagree if anyone says the Niners haven't been the most impressive team of that bunch so far.
The AFC feels like a slugfest where it's any Sunday, one team can win. Buffalo, Miami, you got Denver, Miami last week. It feels like the Chiefs and the Raiders, whoever it is. Well, that's probably a bad example, but it feels like the AFC to begin the year, and we've seen through a month, it feels like that's kind of a toss-up of, yes, you may have your number one team being Buffalo and the Dolphins, but Kansas City still has Mahomes and Kelsey and Taylor Swift. You got other people like the Chargers got a big win today, I believe. There are some teams that can surprise, and you kind of wouldn't be too shocked. Jacksonville's playing below their potential so far. How long is that going to last? Then you have the NFC, where it feels like you got your Holyfield, you got your Tyson, you got your Muhammad Ali. Then it's a bunch of guys off the street, and you're like, these guys are getting knocked out left and right, TKO'd in the first round, and you're standing over them, flexing right over them. In San Francisco so far, unlike Dallas, who lost against this Cardinals team, San Francisco has knocked out their opponent, really not broken a sweat, and stood over them, and they flex like, you have nothing on us. The text line keeps saying it's an effortless, boring 30-point game. Yeah, San Francisco, while this isn't true, there isn't an effortless win. It does feel like San Francisco, while yes, it's put up 30-plus points a game, it feels like it's come so easy, where maybe they haven't been tested too much yet. Next week, in prime time, at Levi Stadium, they're going to get a test. One of the top defenses in football. Micah Parsons, one of the best, if not the best defensive player in football so far, and an offense in Dallas that, well, unlike San Francisco's kind of been a roller coaster so far this year. And that right there to me is really the biggest example of how good San Francisco's been. The Eagles are a little blip up and a little blip down. Dallas is all over the place, up and down. San Francisco is riding high and is yet to come down, and they're just climbing up, chugga, up and up and up and up. And it's like right now you can't see a point of in the future and say there might be a letdown somewhere. It feels like that every game should be a win.
Yes. Niners will be favored on Sunday against the Cowboys.
Cowboys, Browns, Bengals, all those games feel like they should end in victories.
Regardless of who the 49ers play, and maybe the one exception is on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles later on in the year. Maybe that's the one exception. Every other game feels like if the Niners lose, and you'll still be disappointed if they lose to the Eagles, but every other game feels like we let one get away. Like that should have been a win. And that's just the reality of how talented this team is. It's a lot of pressure, and it's difficult to pass that test 17 times in a regular season. That's why very few teams go undefeated throughout a regular season, because it's difficult to do that week in and week out. But you look at, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, you look at the Bengals in a couple of weeks. They was
stunk.
Originally thought to be, that's going to be a really tough game. You're right. They're 1-3 right now, and they look like they have issues. Jamar Chase is in the locker room saying, "I'm always open. Throw me the bleeping ball." He said that this afternoon after they lost on the road against the Tennessee Titans. In the locker room, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, the AFC champions of a couple of years ago who went back to the AFC title game last year. They're saying things like that, and they're 1-3.
They're dysfunctional. Well,
it feels that way.
Maybe to a small degree, they're dysfunctional. You know who's not? San Francisco.
100%.
It feels like every single player, whether it's the GM, the owner, the head coach, the assistant, the water boy, the quarterback, the running back, the defense, the practice squad guys.
All working together.
Everyone feels like they're moving as one.
Yep.
And you hate to use an army or a military example, but it feels like they're an army with soldiers moving as one. You cannot stop fortitude like the San Francisco 49ers have right now.
I think it's something that you said earlier when you're talking about Brock Purdy and his performance, where he just has a sense, and this is obviously credit to the entire team and everyone doing their job to a T, but it's what makes Brock Purdy special, and it's what the 49ers haven't really been used to at the quarterback position in a long time, is a quarterback having complete command of the offense. What would happen, and I really hate to just bring him up for bad examples, but what would happen when Jimmy Garoppolo's first read was covered or there was pressure in his face? He would get happy feet and he'd try to, spin away and he'd get sacked.
Yeah.
He'd throw the ball away. He'd throw an interception. He'd just get out of the pocket as best as he could. What does Brock Purdy do? He calmly spins away from the rusher. We saw that week 1 when Minkah Fitzpatrick came rushing in and he perfectly spun away from him and found an open Deebo Samuel. He is calm and he knows where everyone in this offense is. That might seem simple. It might seem easy. It might seem like, well, that's what quarterbacks should do. Yeah, they should if you're good. The reality of the situation is the 49ers as an organization haven't had that from a quarterback in decades. And now it seems like they do. And it's a testament to Deebo being where he's supposed to be. Aiyuk being the security blanket, the safety valve down the field. George Kittle, oh, my guy's under pressure. I'm going to just sneak out here for a 5-yard completion to the right flat. Everyone is where they're supposed to be, and somehow Brock Purdy knows where everyone is at all times. He has eyes in the back of his head, and that is the most important skill that a quarterback can have, and Purdy has it.
What do you hear almost every broadcaster say about him? He prepares. His preparation is like no other. Brock Purdy might not have the physical traits you like in a quarterback. May not have, he's not 6'3", weighs 220 pounds. He can fling that ball 70 yards downfield, but he prepares. He makes sure that he knows where the running back and the receiver and the blocking is supposed to be, where his feet need to be to make the accurate, correct throw, where, and more importantly, where Kyle Shanahan wants that ball to go. And when Kyle Shanahan's first read of the play breaks down, Purdy knows I have 3-4 other amazing options to get the ball to. But the thing about Purdy is, and Tom Brady, one of the worst at this, he pick favorites where if you're a young receiver, he ain't throwing you the ball. Brock Purdy doesn't care if it's Deebo, Aiyuk, Kittle, McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, McLeod, Ronnie Bell. He doesn't care. All he wants to do is win and continue the drive. He knows where receivers need to be and running backs need to be. It feels like he's preparing like he is those players. One thing Kyle Shanahan always talks about is that Kyle Juszczyk's kind of like another center on the field, where he knows where the Mike linebacker is and where the blocking shifts need to be. It feels like that. Even Christian McCaffrey, the same thing. Another quarterback on the field. It feels like Brock Purdy's preparing to play quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end, so he can be in lockstep with his guys every single play.
Yeah, I agree with you. Niners knock off the Arizona Cardinals today, 35-16. They're 4-0 on the year. The Arizona Cardinals fall to 1-3. Let's go back to the phones here before we hit a quick break. Sean in Oakland wants to react to this Niners win on this Sunday on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Sean, what's up? You're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What'd you think of that Niners win today, Sean?
Look, man, I'm not even a Niners fan like that, right? But because I'm a Raider fan, and you already know what that debacle is already. So, but
sorry about that.
I'm not
Sean.
even going to talk about this. I'm not even, okay, whatever. I'm not even talking about the skill players like Debo, Brock, and all them, but that line, that offensive line, is very cerebral. And if everybody is watching them, it's just like they're playing at like what I think Sterling or somebody said that they're playing like one army and everything. They are. They're playing like one fist, and they're dancing like a perfect tandem. And they're keeping Brock making moves, making decisions, and they opening them holes for McCarthy and all them. And it's just an amazing thing to watch. And look, I got to give it to them. I don't see anybody messing with them. That line is, bar none, one of the top lines in the NFL. So I don't care about them running up against Dallas or anything like that. I don't care if Dallas is 3-1, well, whatever, but that's not going to last too long. And the whole NFC better keep watch. The only people I see messing with them is Philadelphia, and because their line is pretty much the same with Kelsey and all them. But the 49ers is on some other levels that I haven't seen in a long time in a championship team. And I'm proud of them. I'm a Bay Area guy, and I'm proud of what the Niners are doing right now.
Hey, good call, Sean. I'm not sure I'd go as far as saying that they're one of the best offensive lines in the league, especially not on par with the Eagles, who probably do have the best offensive line in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, Colton McKivitz today, he gave up the sack.
Got beat so
There's only one sack today, one for each team. The Niners only gave up one. McKivitz looked pretty foolish on the sack that he gave up today. But I can't really think of too many other bad plays. I mean, there was the sack, and then there was the negative 2-yard run by Deebo Samuel, which were on consecutive plays. Unless there was some plays in garbage time, I'm not including the Darnold kneel down, which was also a negative play technically. I think that negative 2-yard run by Deebo and the sack on the very next play in the third quarter were the only two negative plays all day for the Niners offense. It's not all a result of the offensive line, but I think to Sean's point, for the most part, they get a pretty good day. McKivitz, a very bad rep on that one specific
bad
rep.
play.
But other than that, I mean, the offensive line, I don't know how you feel, they've been much better than I was expecting throughout this season, honestly. I mean, you look at one weakness of this team, specifically on the offense, it was just relative unknowns on the line. And there have been some missteps, but I think, again, to Sean's point, to the caller's point, the offensive line's been pretty damn good.
I feel like I never hear someone mention any of their name besides McKivitz once a game, which, okay, it's one play. If it's a big play of the game, it's clutch. Of course, you're like, McKivitz, what are you doing?
Well, there was the play in the first quarter, I think it was, when McCaffrey caught a pass over the middle of the field, and Trent Williams somehow was up ahead of him. And you see the big guy running forward, looking to pick up a block.
Yeah.
And I think you and I both screamed in unison, Trent, look out for Trent. Like he's about to just lay someone out. Ultimately, I think it was like a 14-yard McCaffrey gain. But you're right. Other than that, moments like that, the one McKivitz mistake, you don't hear from any of the offensive linemen, which is a sign you're doing a good job.
I think people are a little jaded when it comes to McKivitz, especially because they know Trent's great. You really never hear about Aaron Banks' name because he's played really well through 4 games so far. Brendel was a second-team All-Pro last year. Burford, you expect bigger things in his second year as a starter. And McKivitz, his first year starting. We knew coming into this year that it was going to be a big task for McKivitz to be a better right tackle than, to a certain degree, how bad or how good McGlinchey actually was. Yeah. He's up and down for his entire Niner career. But it feels like through 4 games so far that San Francisco is gelling on all fronts, whether it's, okay, McKivitz gives up 2 sacks against Pittsburgh. Since then, he's given up, 1, 2 total? Yeah. Like, they've picked things up since that week 1 against a really stout, strong Pittsburgh defensive line.
Yeah, better than expected for me, for sure. What do you guys think? Let us know. 888-957-9570. You're leaving Levi's Stadium. You're on the way home. Give us a call. It's also the Comcast Business text line. For now, though, time for a break on Overtime. More coming up after this. It's Grandy and Sterling here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range...
touchdown for Christian McCaffrey, and it's 20-3, 49ers.
Now back to Overtime with Sterling Bennett, Alan Stiles, and Mark Grandy on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. No Alan Stiles today. He'll be back a week from tonight. That game will be going on right now. The Niners and Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. A game going on right now in New York, I guess technically in New Jersey, where the Jets play. It's 3-0 Kansas City at the moment. But it'll be Niners-Cowboys next Sunday night, and it'll be myself, Mark Grandy, along with Sterling and Alan Stiles, live from Overtime here on 95.7 The Game a week from now. But again, no Alan today. He'll be back in a week. For now, though, Sterling and I are reacting to the Niners' 35-16 win over the Arizona Cardinals. The Niners are now 4-0. Arizona falls to 1-3 on the season. And we want to hear from you as you're heading out of Levi's Stadium, getting in your car and heading home. 888-957-9570. The 49ers, another dominant performance. Christian McCaffrey, a 4-touchdown day, 20 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. You just heard one of his touchdowns there. The one you just heard on Fox, Kevin Kugler had the call, was his touchdown catch. He had 7 catches for 71 yards and that score. That was his 3rd touchdown of the game. He would get one more, 4 in total. And what I want to ask you, what I want to ask the callers, Sterling, again, 888-957-9570. Is it time to begin the Christian McCaffrey MVP campaign? Because I think it is. This dude is the best player on the league's best team right now. He's what makes this offense go. He's my MVP through 4 weeks.
If McCaffrey keeps up this pace, and I don't want to be Mr. Negative here, but let's say San Francisco doesn't reach their goal and they only go to the NFC Championship game.
Only.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to knock them. They're going to say, well, they weren't winners, and they're going to pick someone like Jalen Hurts or whoever makes it at the end. If it's a Dallas Cowboy, wrap it up there because the media loves the Dallas Cowboys for whatever reason they are, despite them winning nothing in almost 20, 30 years. It's ridiculous. But I feel like Christian McCaffrey, yes, needs to be on the MVP train. But if you listen to how the media talks about this team, calling Brock Purdy, Brock Turdy, not wanting to give him any credit, not wanting to really pick San Francisco as the number 1 team in football, which they are, bar none so far through 1 month of the season, I feel like winning, and not just winning 13, 14 games, winning it all may be the only way Christian McCaffrey gets an award, which rightfully he will deserve if he continues to have 4 touchdown games throughout the season.
So Christian McCaffrey, week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Tell me.
22 carries, 152 yards, about 7 a pop, a touchdown, had that 65-yard touchdown run. Didn't do a ton in the passing game, 3 for 17 there, week 1. Week 2, by the way, the win week 1 was 30-7. He was the driving force behind it. Week 2 against the Los Angeles Rams, a 30-23 win. The 49ers leaned on Christian McCaffrey again. 20 carries, 116 yards, almost 6 per carry, and a touchdown. Had a 51-yard touchdown in that game. Again, not a ton in the passing game. 3 catches for 19 yards. Last Thursday, week 3, the 49ers dominate the New York Giants 30-12. It was McCaffrey's most modest day of the year. 18 carries, 85 yards, a tick under 5 per carry, and a touchdown. Didn't have a super long one on that one. His longest rush of the game that day was for 12 yards, but also had 5 catches for 34 yards. Still up over 115 yards in total in that game. And then today, against the Arizona Cardinals, bar none, his best performance of the year. 20 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns, by the way, over 5 yards per carry today, and 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, 4 touchdowns in total. He has 7 touchdowns over 4 games. He's averaging over 100 yards, by far more than 100 yards per game from scrimmage. He is the best player on the league's best team. He is my MVP. I don't know if it's possible for him to keep up this torrid pace because he's been so good through 4 games, but if he does, Sterling, he's going to run away with the MVP. That's how incredible he's been through 4 games. He's my MVP through 4 weeks. Through 1 quarter of the 2023 regular season, He's my guy.
Has there ever been a team, and my mind is not thinking of every single midseason trade, but the year after acquiring a player, because usually quarterbacks aren't traded midseason, but the year after acquiring a player, has a player ever won MVP? Has a team ever acquired an MVP in the middle of the season? It feels like San Francisco right now. Now, there's a lot of time to go, but right now has their name, their hat, on maybe one of the greatest midseason trades of all time in getting Christian McCaffrey. And right now, with what he did, like what game is more impressive? His 3 touchdown against the Rams where he passed for 1, ran for 1, and rushed for 1, or this game where he scored 4 total.
That's a good question.
He had 28 points or 24 points himself on the ground.
The performance against the Rams where he threw for 1, ran for 1, caught 1, I think I'd go with that one more impressive because the team needed it more.
His first actual first
start.
Chiefs game doesn't count, but
he didn't start that game officially.
Right.
But yeah, first start, he was like the number 1 running back from start to finish. The Niners were coming off of a bad loss against the Chiefs. That was a point of the season where the Niners needed wins. I mean, that was where they started their winning streak with Jimmy, and then once he got hurt, it continued with Brock Purdy. But the Niners got off to a really slow start last year. Then they acquired McCaffrey, and they never looked back. I think for that reason, I'd go with that game because the team needed it more. Not to say that they didn't need a win today. A very important win when you stay apace with the Eagles atop the NFC. You stay ahead in the NFC West. Today was incredible. But I think the circumstances around last year's Rams game, I think, make that one the pick for me.
Either way, it's 7 touchdowns in just those 2 games. So it's not like Christian McCaffrey's having bad games. And really, has Christian McCaffrey ever had a bad game in San Francisco?
No.
Has Brock Purdy ever had a bad game?
Not really, no.
Has San Francisco ever lost a game with those 2 guys playing?
Well,
don't say that one game. Well, they started and finished the game.
No.
San Francisco, the best team in football? Yes. 4-0 this year? Yes. 2-0 in the division this year? Yes. 1 of 2 remaining teams undefeated this year? Yes. Gonna beat Dallas next week? Oh, I believe, Mark, the answer is going to be yes. Niners are good, and I'm excited.
Yeah, you have to be excited. I mean, this team is 4-0, and they're blowing opponents out of the water, and something that we can touch on is how we still feel like there's room to improve out there. I mean,
could I argue they have exceeded expectations so far?
Yes, of course
they
have.
Which is crazy to think about, knowing the expectation was Super Bowl or bust. Now, it's a long ways away, but I think many of us thought this team has started slow the past 2 years, 3-5 and 4-4. They're probably going to lose against one of these teams. They said, no, we're going to annihilate every single one of them and leave no inch of doubt in any of these games so far. I think through 4 games, they've exceeded the expectations put on them so far.
No doubt for me. I mean, I knew this was a good team.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was blow everyone out of the water good. Like I thought they'd beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. I thought they'd win in Los Angeles, but I thought it would be competitive. It was a 7-point game, but it wasn't really as close as that. They dominated the Giants, who I think coming into the year, I thought that was going to be a difficult game because the Giants' stout defense and they have a mobile quarterback, and that has given the Niners fits in the past. But once that game came around and you kind of realized what the Giants were, at least at this point, I thought it would be a relatively easy win, and it was. Today, obviously, you don't believe much in the Arizona Cardinals, but it's been the way in which they've won all of these games. I think you could easily say that you expected the team to be 4-0. Like it's not like you're playing against world beaters. Pittsburgh on the road, week 1, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And they made it look like they were playing the worst team in the league that game. Like I've been impressed, not necessarily based on the results, but just the way it's felt like they have absolutely dominated
it's how
physically.
They won. Yeah.
Physically, all of their opponents. They've worn them down. This team is at its best. They were incredible in the first half, but they dominate fourth quarters. Is what they do.
6 points in the second half given up so far. What is that, 18 second half points given up through 4 games?
That's 8 quarters of second half football.
18 points.
It's pretty good. They make it difficult. They wear you down. If you're going to beat the Niners, Sterling, you got to get on them early. you got to jump on them early because they are so physical offensively and defensively. If you give them a lead in the second half, what are they going to do? They're going to kill you with a 14-play, 77-yard, 7-minute, 14-second drive. You blink, you give up 7 points, and suddenly half the quarter is over.
They've never trailed going into halftime. Never trailed.
They almost did week 2.
But they didn't. This team has, one, never lost a game through 4 games. They've never trailed in a game, I believe, more than 7 points, and that didn't last long. They've never gone into halftime trailing at all. It feels like San Francisco, when the going gets tough and you get a little worried, the offense picks them back. Like we saw it against the Rams, saw it today where it's like, oh, the Cardinals, it's only a 5-point game or whatever it was at the time. What do they do? 7 points, now it's a 12-point game. Then scored again. It felt like San Francisco was waiting to pounce. And to start this game, being up 21-3, eventually 21-10, it felt like San Francisco, the defense was wanting to hunt that opposing offense in Arizona. Josh Dobbs this year, or in this game, rushed for 48 yards. That is the most yards a quarterback has ever rushed against this offense or this defense this year. That's Kenny Pickett, a rather more mobile quarterback. That's more than Daniel Jones, who had 5 yards on the ground last week.
That was gross.
Like, if anything, I point to and say, after being 4-0 and scoring 35 points in this game, it might be Josh Dobbs' legs you can point to and say, okay, like, that could be a worrisome factor later, but it wasn't like he was gashing you. His longest run was for 12 yards. He's not rushing Lamar Jackson-like for 20, 30 yards downfield. Let's extend the drive and move on. San Francisco, for, again, any worry you might have, it's almost like as soon as you have a glimmer of like, I don't know about that, they come out and say, wash it away and start over. We're so good, and we're going to dominate our opponent. When there's 1 inch of doubt, erase it. It's not actually there, and we're going to win by 19 points and score 35.
What'd you think of the defense today? And also throw this out to the callers, 888-957-9570. The Niners defense today, the final score again, 35-16. Really, it was just 2 drives that hurt the Niners. The Rams. The Cardinals got a field goal in the second quarter, and then in consecutive drives to end the first half and to begin the third quarter, they had their 2 touchdown drives there. The Niners did not force a turnover. They got a turnover on downs. But they did not force an interception. They did not force a fumble and recover it. First time this year, they have not forced a turnover in that way. They have turnover on downs, but they did not pick off a pass. They did not recover a fumble for the first time this year. What'd you think of the defense today? Give up 16 points, not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but that time, late second quarter, early third quarter, the Cardinals got almost everything they wanted. I mean, the 99-yard drive to open up the third quarter
was not good
for Arizona. Again, I was impressed with Josh Dobbs and the rookie wide receiver Wilson from Stanford. Michael Wilson coming back home to where he played collegiately in the South Bay.
Former Stanford players scored 6 touchdowns today. Wilson had 2, McCaffrey had 4. Incredible. Stanford's showing out.
He was really good. 7 for 76 and 2 touchdowns. He caught both of the touchdowns from Josh Dobbs, again, late in the first half, and then in their first drive of the third quarter. The defense was, at times, it wasn't great. The Niners ultimately only give up 16 points, and that was the only touchdown, only points they allowed in the second half. But if we are focusing on areas where maybe this team wasn't its normal dominant self, it was probably the defense, specifically in those 2 middle quarters.
But it did feel like that it was only a 3-drive output for the Cardinals.
Yeah, field goal and 2 touchdowns.
Right, where it was beginning of the game, Cardinals 2 first offensive drives, 10 plays, 23 yards, 2 punts.
Yep.
Their next 3 drives, 37 plays, 226 yards, and 16 points, capped off by a 99-yard touchdown drive. Now, to tell the audience and yourself how rare that is that a Niners team gives up a 99-yard touchdown drive. It's the first time a Niners defense has done so since September 15th, 2002 against the Denver Broncos.
Throwback.
21 years is the last time that's happened. And I'm going to go on a limb and say it's probably not going to happen the rest of the year. It might not happen for 20 more years. So for a bad Cardinals team to do this against San Francisco, to me it feels more like a blip on the radar rather than a problem. My bigger issue with the defense is, why do they keep pulling Isaiah Oliver off the field?
That was interesting.
And giving Ambry Thomas reps. He got burnt twice in this game, leading to a touchdown pass. Like, Ambry Thomas, I felt like coming out of camp was in for a bounce-back year. We saw what he can do in 2021. This year so far, he's not been that guy, and it feels like that they're waiting for Darrell Luter Jr., rookie out of South Alabama, fifth-round pick this year, to finally get on the field for the first time since training camp. Because Thomas has not been I don't want to say a star, but he hasn't really been a quality NFL caliber player through 4 games so far.
Yeah, the Cardinals picked on him for their first touchdown.
Immediately.
Yeah, he was step for step with, I think, Hollywood Brown down the left sideline, incomplete. Very next play, same exact route, but for a different receiver. I think it was Michael Wilson on that one as well.
Yeah.
And he had maybe a step and a half on Ambry Thomas. Nice completion for a big gain. Sets him up in the red zone. A couple plays after that, it was Ambry Thomas lined up against Michael Wilson again. It was a zone coverage look. It looked like Thomas tried to pass him off to Hufanga, the safety, over the top, and maybe miscommunication. Hufanga a little bit late. Maybe it was a mistake on Thomas, who was supposed to stick with him. Who knows exactly? We'll have to ask Kyle Shanahan about that tomorrow next time he speaks. But it was a wide open touchdown. Michael Wilson, who originally was Ambry Thomas's guy. So you're right. I mean, that was interesting. Why are you bringing Ambry Thomas in? I mean, he immediately gets cooked. And the Niners went away from that the rest of the game, and the Cardinals were not able to get much else going. The other thing was there were some moments where Dre Greenlaw was out of the game.
Yeah.
He had a moment where it looked like maybe he rolled his ankle just a little bit.
Re-injured it maybe.
Came back in the game, I think a play or two later, and made a tackle. But then you saw, who was it that came in? Oren Burks came in at linebacker for a couple of plays. And we've kind of been keeping an eye on that. Weirdly, the Niners have been changing up their defensive sets.
It's not like
a little
them.
bit. Sometimes you see 3 linebackers out there instead of a nickelback, which is very rare.
I'm pretty sure Javon Kinlaw played edge rusher today, which never happens.
That's weird.
Like, what?
I don't know.
Like, why is Kinlaw playing defensive end? But going back to the Thomas stuff, it feels like they're trying to get him reps in preparation for him to maybe have to start a game here or there, but it's not like it's working. And I have no idea what Steve Wilkes is thinking or saying or what he's trying to do, but it feels like this team is like, why are you bouncing Lenore, who's having a good game inside, when you don't have to? Like, you're up by, at that point, was it 20 or 11 points, whatever it was. You're winning the game by 2 scores. Why are you changing things defensively when
that was 21-3?
When people aren't getting hurt? It's not like Lenore got hurt or Oliver got hurt. Why are you taking out what seems like one of your starting caliber cornerbacks for a guy who's been replacement level at best? That, to me, is a question mark I would have for Steve Wilkes, I don't know, Tuesday whenever he talks, because right now it's like, hey, you're up by 18 points. Why are you changing anything? Doesn't make sense to me, but I think I'll give Steve Wilkes the benefit of the doubt so far. Has a top 5 defense in football, and besides one game, they're getting turnovers, and they won 35-16 today.
Yeah, so you mentioned the numbers on Arizona's first 2 drives and then the 3 drives that followed. I'll reiterate, and then I'll add something on there. So the first 2 drives for Arizona, 10 total plays, 23 yards, 2 first downs, 2 punts. Their next 3 drives, which is the field goal, touchdown, spanning the first and second halves, 37 plays, 226 total yards, 14 first downs, a field goal, and 2 touchdowns. So for Arizona, as a team in this game, they had 362 yards of total offense. 226 of those yards came on those 3 scoring drives. That means on the other 4 drives, the 2 drives before and the 2 drives after, 136 total yards on those 4 drives. That's the dominant Niners defense. And what did they do in those drives? Well, they did it with only 1 sack.
Yeah.
They did it without forcing a turnover. This was a defensive performance, aside from that middle stretch of the game, where even without getting the big plays defensively, they still suffocated you. Like, this defense can still be elite, even if they aren't getting home to the quarterback, even if they aren't forcing those turnovers. Now, again, there was still that middle stretch. You just can't ignore Arizona's 3 scoring drives. Like, you can say that for any team. Oh, just take out the times where we gave up points.
Right.
We were great. But 4 drives in this game, to start the game and to end the game, You gave up 136 total in those 4 drives. That's a very, very good number. Now, again, the question that we're asking is those 3 middle drives, what changed? What happened? Credit Arizona making some adjustments as well. The Niners eventually figured it out and didn't allow another point after that opening drive touchdown for Arizona in the third quarter. But if there is an area where you feel a little bit uneasy, it was maybe some of the personnel decisions defensively, late second quarter, early third.
And one of the more impressive, I guess, non-personnel decisions, and this is brought up by Juice on the first NorCal Credit Union YouTube chat, is that they had only 10 men on a 2-point conversion.
Which they stopped.
And Burks and Hufanga combined for an amazing tackle to stop the Cardinals from making it at that point. I don't know, do quick math here. Seems like a 5-point game.
It would have been a 3-point game.
Okay, 3-point game. Yeah. Math's hard, obviously. But it feels like that at that moment, San Francisco said, enough's enough. We played this game for too long. We're a better defense than this. And you had a star safety and a backup linebacker combined for, not play of the game, but a huge momentum shift in this game. And Steve Wilkes was like, yeah, just play 10 guys. Just play 10 guys. Who needs 11? Play 10.
Did you watch the Notre Dame-Ohio State game, not this weekend, but the previous weekend?
I was too busy watching my Sooners drop 70.
Okay. No one cares about your Sooners, dude. But, so, the Buckeyes were down by 7. Yeah, they're down 7.
That's hard.
I'm trying to they got the 2-point conversion. Okay.
Right.
No, it wasn't. They just needed the touchdown to win. It wasn't a 2-point conversion. Okay, I'm remembering now. They got the ball all the way down to the doorstep of the end zone, the 1-yard line, like 1 second on the clock. Essentially, it's kind of like a 2-point conversion. It's a similar distance, and it's one play with 1 second on the clock. You run one play to win the game. You need a touchdown to win. I think they're probably down 5 is what it was. They needed the touchdown to win to walk off on the road against Notre Dame. Notre Dame sends out 10 players. Ooh. And Ohio State obviously gets in. They win the game and they celebrate. But Notre Dame put 10 guys out there on the field, and as a result, they lost. Niners almost made a similar... Well, they didn't make the mistake. It didn't come back to bite them because Hufanga forced out James Conner before he got into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. But that was weird. How many times on a big play like... I guess you could kind of understand it as I'm sorting through my thoughts here live on air. You could kind of understand it on a live play, like, oh, everything's moving quickly. They're down at the 1-yard line.
By surprise, too.
But on a 2-point conversion, where you're already thinking about sending in a different unit, like, I feel like it's pretty difficult to mess up and only have 10 guys on the field in the 2-point conversion attempt when you have the break after the touchdown in the first place.
When I feel like the Niners special teams unit isn't too different than their base defense. Maybe it's not Hargrave or Armstead, but I feel like you're going to see guys like Hyder and Givens. But I'm just imagining one guy being like, guys, wait! I'm number 11, wait for me!
Well, I think it was Isaiah Oliver on the sideline.
See, he shouldn't have pulled him out in the first place. It's Steve Wilkes' fault. Come on, guys. Come on, Steve.
Oh, man.
But again, made the stop, big play. You win 35-16. 4-0, Mark.
Yeah.
4-0.
35-16. You've put up at least 30 in all 4 games this year. I know we just spent like 20 minutes talking about the defense and a few concerns there, but it's really just because there's nothing else to be concerned about. That's how good this team is. We want to hear from you as you're heading home from Levi's Stadium. We've got 1 hour of overtime left here on 95.7 The Game, and we're going to your calls all hour long. 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. 1 more hour of overtime, and we have some sound from Shanahan, Purdy, and McCaffrey coming up as well. It's Grandy and Sterling on overtime right here on 95.7 The Game.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website.
combine on the stop after a 41-yard gain.
Now back to Overtime with Sterling Bennett, Alan Stiles, and Mark Grandy on 95.7 The Game.
Welcome back. Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. No Alan Stiles today. He'll be back next week for Sunday Night Football, Niners and Cowboys. For now, though, it's...
Skip the easy games.
Skips the Cardinals.
What a jerk.
Yeah, come on, Alan.
Celebrating your friends getting married.
Big deal.
Who cares?
Niners, Cardinals is a bigger deal. But yeah, Alan will be back next week for Sunday Night Football, Niners and Cowboys. 4-0 Niners, 3-1 Cowboys. Looking forward to that one already. Got what looks like a sleeper on Sunday Night Football this week. The Kansas City Chiefs out in front of the Jets, 17-0. Yeah, it's exactly what we all expected, I think.
Every quarterback but one in that draft class sucks.
Trevor Lawrence?
Like I said, everyone but one. Jones, Wilson, Lance, Fields, they're all bad.
Trevor Lawrence hasn't been very good this year. They got to win today in London, which is the Jaguars' second home. Did you know they're playing consecutive games in London?
I like that.
They played this week in London and next week in London.
But that's kind of nice, though. You get to rest up, no worry of, got to go back home. And they usually give them the bye week.
Yeah.
But now you get 2 games in London. Across the pond over there, going to have some fun. And then you're going to get a bye week most likely, then come back home. It feels like it's almost like an extended vacation.
Yeah, you get a little bit more time to go and,
the world.
Sightseeing and, all that. But...
see Big Ben?
Yeah.
It's nice.
The non-football Big Ben.
You can see him, too. You can invite him out there.
Maybe he's over there. Who knows?
He's a lot of places.
But yeah, Niners win today. They knock off the Arizona Cardinals. 35-16 is the final score. No Allen today. It's Grandy and Sterling with you. 888-957-9570. That's the number to join the program. It's also the Comcast Business text line. And we're keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Sterling, I want to talk a little bit about Brandon Aiyuk. You just heard a highlight. It was a fingertip catch by Aiyuk. That was one instance of a not perfect throw by Brock Purdy today, which was few and far between. He was 20 for 21 today. That one, Purdy let it fly deep down the field. I'm not sure exactly what he was looking at, what he saw, because Aiyuk was double covered. He was covered perfectly by a couple of Cardinals. Maybe this was purposeful, but Purdy underthrew it. What happens when you underthrow a receiver down the field? The defensive backs tend to not have eyes on the ball immediately. It allows your receiver to kind of react to the ball while the rest of the defense is running past the ball, and it turned into a catch. I don't know if that was the plan for Purdy or whatever the situation is, but long story short, a great play adjusting to a ball by Aiyuk. He finishes with 6 for 148, nearly 25 yards per catch for Brandon Aiyuk today. Did not find the end zone, had a 42-yard catch, but 6 for 148. He was incredible. We weren't totally sure this week if he was going to play. Remember, he's been shaken up in and out throughout this season so far through 4 weeks, but he came back today and was phenomenal. 6 for 148. It just seemed like on a play action, on a boot for Purdy, he was always the man wide open down the field. And what did Purdy do? He let it rip over and over and over. 6 for 148. Aiyuk is quickly developing into one of the better receivers in this league.
We have a saying on the night show, or previously known night show here, was let Jimmy jack it. Brock Purdy today jacked it 3 times. 42 yards, 34 yards, and 25 yards. If you're going to say, you're going to call him Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy jacked it today all over the field. In fact,
Jimmy Jacket.
See, there you go, Dan Devone. There you go. But no, you're right. Brandon Aiyuk, he has emerged as Brock Purdy's number 1 receiver. And I think last year you saw the chemistry with Kittle and said that right there is going to be the tandem next year. Well, in fact, Kittle's only had 1 game of over, 4 catches. That was against the Giants last week, had 7 for 90.
Yeah.
It feels like Brandon Aiyuk, every single game, is Purdy's number 1 target. Now, it's probably because Ayuk's such a good route runner. It can be open on these easy slant passes for Purdy. But even on deep passes where you like to think you want your bigger body receiver downfield, he's giving it to Aiyuk, who's pretty slim. Now, he's a dog with mentality-wise, but it feels like that Brock Purdy's like, you know what? I'm going to go Tom Brady on you. Randy Moss is down there somewhere. Aiyuk is down there somewhere. And it feels like when Purdy gets, a little confident, feels like now's the time to take a chance. It's always Brandon Aiyuk. And so far this year, I know he hasn't played one game, really didn't play in the Rams game as well, but through, 2 games so far, Aiyuk looks like this team's top target again. And just the plays he's made, not the numbers, the plays he's made continue to make me want to say he's an elite receiver in football.
Well, Aiyuk, the 2 really full games he's played, week 1 and week 4, you mentioned he was in and out of the lineup 2 weeks ago in week 2 against the Rams, had 3 catches for 43, but he was in and out and didn't play on the Thursday night game, week 3 against the Giants. So the 2 games that he's played start to finish, week 1 and week 4. In those 2 games, 8 for 129 and 2 touchdowns. Woo! That was against the Steelers. And then today, 6 for 148. So in the 2 games where he's played a complete game, let's see, I can do the math in my head. 14 catches for 277 yards in those 2 games.
Is that good?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Like all pro level good, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, he's becoming, again, one of the best wide receivers in this league, and now suddenly you have a potent enough offense that's putting up points where you are going to get to a level, if you're Aiyuk, and if you are healthy throughout an entire season, you play 15 games, 16 games, whatever the number is going to be for Aiyuk, the offense is scoring enough points, they're moving the ball enough. Again, stats, whatever, it only really matters for, awards and
numbers
all of that.
are for losers, Mark.
I mean, wins is what matters, right? But
exactly.
But this offense is reaching a level where they're scoring 30 a game.
Yeah.
Their quarterback is throwing for nearly 300 a game. You're getting to a point, Sterling, where Aiyuk is going to be the number 1 receiving option on one of the best offenses in the league. Invariably, he's going to have some of the best numbers of all receivers in the league.
Do you think, or is there fear, San Francisco having not truly been tested just yet? Do you buy into that? And are you worried they might be peaking too soon?
I'm not worried about peaking.
Okay.
I'm not. And there's still so much much season left.
It's like, 14 weeks left?
Yeah, you've played 4 games. You have 13
games to go.
There's 18 weeks. You have still 14 weeks of the season left. Yeah, you're right. I'm not too worried about that. I, for one, have had week 5 circled since the schedule came out.
Of course, everybody has.
Like, that's going to be a gigantic game, and it's a little bit of a buzzkill that the Cowboys lost to this Arizona team last week, because it would have been great. I mean, if you're just purely rooting for the Niners' interests, you want a chance at the 1 seed, 2 seed, whatever. You want the Cowboys to have losses. You want the Eagles to have losses. But there's something about just a clean 4-0 versus a clean 4-0 in Sunday Night Football Week 5.
Handing the Dallas Cowboys their first loss feels a lot much better than their second loss.
So to answer your question, I'm not worried about them peaking too early because it is still so early and there's so much that can happen over the course of a season. But I am interested. I'm curious to see how this offense looks against an elite defense. I still think Pittsburgh is a really good defense. Now, today, CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, and the Texans.
D'Amico.
They put up, I think they put up 30 on them today. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at the numbers. I'm pretty sure they put up 30
Their
against the
jerseys
Pittsburgh
are nice.
Steelers
The
today.
red on red. Love that.
Oh, the red helmets. They were awesome. Where is this game?
The Cardinals jerseys today, though, the white on white, look like Kmart discount Niners, 94 throwbacks. Not
You
a
didn't
fan.
like them?
Not a fan.
I was okay with them.
It's like the Rams. We got bone white jerseys. No, you don't. You have white. What are we doing? But the Texans jerseys, ooh, the red helmet, the red jerseys, I love that.
Well, let's see. I mean, I'm trying to find the game here. They put up 30-6. The Steelers or the Texans over the Steelers. So maybe the defense isn't as good as we thought. I don't know.
Well, they won them the game against the Browns single-handedly.
Yeah.
Like, the Pittsburgh defense is good.
But I think the point is they're not Cowboys good, and the Cowboys have a more competent offense than the Steelers as well. It's not a hot take at all. The Cowboys are by far the best team the Niners, after week 5, they'll be the best team the Niners have played so far this season. I'm not worried that the Niners are going to fall flat, that the Steelers are going to come into Levi's and win. I think it'll be a competitive game for sure. I mean, it was in the playoffs last year. But I'm just curious to see what this Niners offense looks like specifically because they have been so good. Is this truly an elite offense, one of the best, perhaps the best in the NFL? Or will they put up, 21 points against a good defense? Not like that's a terrible output against an elite defense, But I'm just curious to see if this offense can still reach close to 30 against a really good defense.
I mean, it's if they put up 26 against Dallas, it's not like, oh man, it's
pretty good.
That's like 10th best in football. It's not like it's a negative thing. But also, Brock Purdy today, 1 incompletion, he had 2 touchdowns. Brock Purdy had more touchdowns than incompletions. That's insane. The fact that we're sitting here and going into week 5 against Dallas, I would lean, if there's one team in football that's on the upper echelon of teams, Kansas City, you have your Bills, your Dolphins, your Eagles, your Niners, and Cowboys, of all those teams, wouldn't Dallas be the one team you point to and say they would have this weird fall apart, Dak Prescott's really bad and the defense plays awful game? That they feel like the one team that is more prone to be a fluke than everybody else.
Well, it's interesting because of that group, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Josh Allen, you have Tua, who maybe has fallen off that now, but entering the week was the MVP front runner, according to Vegas.
Yeah.
And then you have Jalen Hurts, and then you have Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. So you have 3 legit superstars, maybe the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL. You can make the argument. An up-and-coming rising star in Tua, who has an incredible offense, and Mike McDaniel, the Kyle Shanahan protege, leading the charge. And then you have Brock Purdy, who nationally there's still a lot of doubt around, obviously, but Niner fans here in San Francisco, in Northern California, have a lot of belief in Brock Purdy now. And then there's Dak Prescott, who's kind of been a lightning rod his entire career, who, as often as he makes a great throw to CeeDee Lamb, he made a great touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb today.
Coming into today, Dallas had thrown 0 touchdowns to receivers all year.
I do know. I have CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team.
That's insane.
But he made a great throw. But then for every one of those throws he makes the interception he threw against the Cardinals to seal their loss last week. What are you looking at? He throws it right at a linebacker over the middle part of the field. So that's where I think what your question comes in. You have superstar quarterback, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, all of these guys. That's why those teams are fantastic and are really good and are some of the best in the league. And then you have the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, and you feel like CeeDee Lamb could play great. Tony Pollard can play great. Micah Parsons could have 4 sacks, force a fumble. The defense gives you a touchdown, but Dak Prescott could still lose you that game. That's the only quarterback in this league when you're talking about the elite teams where you feel like the quarterback is a major question. Now, nationally, some people have that thought about Brock Purdy.
Right.
We don't really feel that way here anymore, I don't think. Maybe there's still some who feel that way, but it feels like Dak Prescott, and I don't want to make this a pregame show for next week, but it feels like Dak Prescott is the one quarterback in that group where you're like, I'm a little worried that in the big moment, he's going to make a mistake that costs your team the game.
See, but I feel like of those, 5, 6 teams, let's say it's 3 in each conference, Tua could be in the same conversation as Dak, albeit the ceiling's probably higher for Tua with the offense he's in. But it feels like that of all the teams, maybe not the Chiefs because Mahomes feels like he is the team, that of all those teams, it does feel like that we've seen the Bills lose to the Zach Wilson-led Jets in prime time.
And then they've been dominant since.
No.
They just held Miami, who scored 70 last week to 20 today.
But we've seen, even in 1 week, even last year, the Bills are up for 5-6 weeks and Josh Allen becomes one of the most turnover-prone quarterbacks in football.
Yep.
We've seen Tua be really high, score 70 points, then throw a dud in Buffalo against a pretty good defense.
But who do you have more faith in, Josh Allen or Dak Prescott? It's Josh Allen.
Obviously Josh Allen, but my point more so is that it feels like that of all the teams in that grouping, it's only Philadelphia, Kansas City, and I could argue just Philadelphia and San Francisco that could overcome a bad quarterback day. If Mahomes,
you're less reliant on the QB to win you a game.
If Mahomes plays poorly, which is almost never going to happen,
don't count on it.
The Chiefs are likely going to lose, right? And it feels like if Dak plays poorly and Tua plays bad and Josh Allen plays bad, though other teams do not have enough around them to lift the team above bad quarterback play. We're in San Francisco with the weapons they have here in this defense, and Philadelphia, which has a weaker defense than last year, but a really good offensive line, and Swift is killing it out there in Philadelphia on the running game. It feels like those two teams are the only ones that could pick the team up if the quarterback still plays poorly.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. That's the number to call. It's also the Comcast Business text line. Up next is Nick in Berkeley. Nick is coming back home from Levi's. Nick, what'd you think of the Niners win today? You're on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game.
Man, I think the Cardinals are a lot better than what people think they are, man, because they stretched our defense sometimes, man, and like they beat us to the edge a lot, and they did those little swing passes and little crazy running plays that Wilson used to beat us all the time with in Seattle, man. I don't understand why we can't protect the flat, and I don't understand for the life of me why on 3rd and long you would let somebody get behind you. Okay, I mean, like, how if you're a DB or safety, it's 3rd and long, and you let people get behind you. What is wrong with you? And then Shanahan. On top of that, man, he's like running Caffrey with like 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in the game. There's no need for that, bro. That's when another team is trying to twist his leg off. I'm like, to get him out the game, brother, like we're already whooping on him. But let me tell you something, man, Aiyuk, all them people that was always talking trade talk with Aiyuk, man, that man's routes are so cold. That's why Purdy was throwing it up right as he was making his break, and he was just running, looking up and catching the ball, just dropping into his hands as he looked up. I mean, I haven't seen that in a long time, man. And that was pretty sick, man. That's like when you're out there on the street playing with your friends and all. He knows exactly where you're going, and Purdy drops dimes. He's doing a lot better than that cat in Philly right now who remain nameless, you know what I'm saying? So hype in the NFL don't mean nothing, man. It's what you're doing right now. The Niners are, man, I'm telling you, we are a train on the tracks. If you're on the tracks, you're about to get ran over. You don't want to be on our schedule right now because we're just going to manhandle you, and that's just how it's going down, and we ain't going to talk about it.
Hey, yeah, good call, Nick. Yeah, I mean...
Taking shots at Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, the cat in Philadelphia.
Ooh. Meow.
I mean, Brock Purdy's... he played better than Jalen Hurts so far.
Is he better than him? No. Probably not. But right now, like the caller said, like Nick just said, yeah. I think if you said through 4 weeks, who is a better quarterback in your quarterback power rankings, Purdy has to be top 6. You put Tua in there. You put maybe Josh Allen in there. You put Mahomes in there, obviously. And I'm probably forgetting somebody else, but Purdy's got to be in that 5-6 range, right? Hurts has played fine, but it's not like they're playing amazing football in Philadelphia.
All right, I'm going to... Oh, this gives it away. I was going to read both stat lines and have you guess who was who, but the interceptions give it away because Brock Purdy hasn't thrown an interception, and you would have picked up on it immediately. So I'm just going to tell you, this year, Jalen Hurts is completing 68% of his passes.
Okay.
He's thrown for just a shade under 1,000 through 4 games, 959, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 3 interceptions this year for Jalen Hurts. Brock Purdy, meanwhile, so far this year, he's completing a tick over 72% of his passes, so that's about 6% better than Jalen Hurts. He's thrown for more yards, 1,019 yards, just a little bit more, but he has thrown for more on fewer attempts, by the way. He's thrown the same number of touchdowns, 5, and he has not thrown an interception. Now, you might wonder, well, okay, what about the run game? Because Jalen Hurts is an incredible rushing quarterback. He scores touchdowns that way all the time. He's rushed for 134 yards this year and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good for a quarterback. Brock Purdy has only rushed for 24 yards. But guess what? He's ran for 2 touchdowns on the ground. Brock Purdy. Now, I'm not saying that he's nearly as good of a runner as Jalen Hurts is, and I'm not saying that I think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
He's the most mobile quarterback in football, Mark. Come on.
Okay. You're just grinding my gears now purposely. I respect it, honestly. But the point is, so many Niner fans, people around the league, just like, well, the quarterback's not throwing for 300 yards. Yeah. He's not throwing enough touchdowns. We got to see him 2 per game and over 300 yards. The stats. That's the only thing standing between him and being, a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league. Statistically, he's been miles better than Jalen Hurts this year. Statistically.
I feel like that might be more of a national media issue where they're not watching every single snap, like they're going to see this game and say, oh my goodness, he was 20 for 21, and they'll eat that up. But in reality, this probably was Purdy's cleanest game, but I don't think it was his best game. I think, like, situationally...
This year or in his career?
This year.
What was his best game?
Steelers game. Like, that score could have been 45-0 or 45-10, whenever it was. Like, it felt like that in this game, they were in complete control from the get-go, and it was, here, Christian McCaffrey, here's 4 touchdowns. I'm not knocking Purdy for it at all, but situationally, it never felt as if, besides maybe one drive, that not that he had to do much, but it felt like that there wasn't really a time and place you point to and say, well, Brock Purdy was just awesome at this point where they needed him in the clutch situation and he came through. Now, it's kind of a good thing. They didn't need that. No one's knocking him for not having to do those things because they won 35-16 and had control from the get-go. But it did feel like that against Pittsburgh or even against the Rams. He wasn't great in that game, but there was a situation in that game where go get me a touchdown, Brock Purdy, and he did so. And that, to me, is more impressive than being up 35-16 because your running back is playing an amazing game.
I hear you. I think that this was his best game of the year. 20 for 21, 283, a touchdown. Did not throw an interception, did not fumble the ball at all. Also ran for a touchdown on the quarterback sneak at the 1-yard line to seal the game. I think for Brock Purdy, what stands out to me, and I just watched this game, think back to how I emotionally felt watching Jimmy Garoppolo, even Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith and everything in between, which was nothing to write home about, and everything before those two as well. After, Jeff Garcia, just a lot of mediocre at best quarterback play.
He's a big Cody Pickett guy.
Everything beyond those guys, obviously everything post Steve Young, really post Jeff Garcia, it's been at times difficult to watch. And my overarching emotion watching those guys is I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Something's going to go wrong. This guy's going to throw an interception and it's going to be the final blow and the team's going to lose as a result.
Everything has to be perfect around them to win.
Yes. And as we get further along in this Brock Purdy era, the emotion I get when watching him, it's just calmness.
Yeah.
It's trust. It's like, oh, he missed that throw. It wasn't perfect. Okay, but guess what? He didn't turn the ball over. And he made the right read. And he found the right guy. It didn't work. Okay, the throw was a yard too far. He'll get it next time. That is the worst thing that Brock Purdy does, is throws an incompletion. And it has been so long as a 49er fan to where that's been your overarching feeling watching a quarterback. It isn't always the most flashy. He's not Lamar Jackson and spinning away from 5 tackles and extending the play and racing down the field for 27 yards and getting into the end zone and flipping over a defender into the end zone for a touchdown. He's not doing that. But what is he doing? He's making the right play over and over and over and over and over again. And watching him play football, I just can't help but have just calmness wash over me because I trust this dude for some reason. He's barely been in the league, but I trust him. He's proven it to me. He's earned my trust. He's earned Kyle Shanahan's trust. That's my overarching feeling watching Brock Purdy play football. I trust him that he's going to do what's right. I haven't felt that way about a Niners quarterback maybe in my entire life.
Which is funny because that's the feeling you usually have when you have an elite quarterback, where you know every situation, it's likely going to go in your favor and your quarterback is going to make a play to secure a win, get a first down, or ice the game. Brock Purdy, by physical traits-wise, is not one of those players, and it almost feels wrong to feel this way because he doesn't look like the prototypical quarterback. He doesn't look like the 6'5", 6'4", again, 220 pounds, run through you, run around you.
And he's only made 12 starts.
And throw it over you kind of guy. It feels like that Brock Purdy, this still shouldn't be happening. It really should not be happening, but it is. And it feels weird. It's like, when is it going to run out? But in the reality of it, I don't feel like it really ever is. Now, they'll lose the game eventually, and you hope it's in week, 10, not the end of the road in in January or out there in February. But it feels like that this thing can continue for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you hope months and months and months. And right now, Brock Purdy's playing like it might.
He's given you nothing to believe otherwise at this point, for sure. All right, time for one final break here on Overtime. We've got 30 minutes left. If you want to join the show, 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line. 30 more minutes on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. More coming up after this on 95.7 The Game.
So what are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on
here after the 49ers Week 4 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Final score 35-16. Another dominant win. This one by 19 points for the 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you. No Alan Stiles today. He'll be back with us a week from tonight when the Niners take on the Dallas Cowboys. Sunday Night Football overtime as always right when the game ends. And if it's a blowout like today was, a little bit before the game ends, tune on in to 95.7 The Game for overtime. It'll be myself, Alan Stiles, and Sterling Bennett next week, post Niners Cowboys. But Sterling, a 35-16 win for the Niners today. We've discussed this game ad nauseum already. If you want to get in, it's your last chance. 888-957-9570 is the number to call. McCaffrey, incredible, 4 touchdowns. Brock Purdy threw 1 incompletion. Brandon Aiyuk was a big play monster today, nearly 150 yards through the air. He was incredible. Really difficult to just pick out 1 or 2 guys. There were so many stars in this performance today. The defense wasn't phenomenal, but only gave up 16 points. You scored 35 points. You didn't put together your best 4 quarters. But you came out with a divisional win at home. You're 4-0. Life is good if you're a Niners fan.
What's the best game San Francisco has played so far this year? Giants last week on Thursday Night Football, home opener. Pittsburgh week 1
I
on the
think you
road.
can make a case for all of them except for the Rams game.
Okay.
Honestly.
All of them but the Rams.
I think so.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean, the Rams, I know you gave up 23. You were down late in the first half. It was 17-10 before you got the touchdown in the final second of the first half to tie it up. That was a little more nerve-wracking, but you were on the road against a divisional opponent. I don't know. I mean, the way that they came out in Pittsburgh to start the season, that was special.
I think that's the game I would pick. But we talk about them coming out hot against Pittsburgh. They had 3 straight scoring drives of 21 straight points against the Cardinals today.
Literally perfect through 3 drives.
Yes, but again, that Pittsburgh game where you're on the road playing a better defense, that pass rush, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, previous defensive player of the year, which you just got Nick Bosa back. Is Brock Purdy's arm going to hold up? How's the elbow? Where's the arm strength? And it feels like that at that moment, there were so many questions of, how good can this team really be? And they were like, here's 30 points. Here's 30 more points. Oh, week 3, here's 30 points. This week, here's 35 points. It feels like that maybe as a whole, this may have been their best game, offense and defensively, scoring 35 points, McCaffrey's 4 touchdowns. It felt like it may have been, I don't want to say the one game that you kind of guarantee to win, where against the Giants, short week, divisional opponent against the Rams in week 2, you're going to come in, banged up, you're bruised, you got no Aiyuk. This game felt like, well, everyone's healthy. Besides Juwan Jennings and Elijah Mitchell, you should win this game. And San Francisco from the jump felt like they were going to win the game, and they did come out with firepower and, again, score 21 points on their first 3 drives.
Yeah, they were great. And you can make an argument that this was the best team performance. I wouldn't necessarily argue with you it's up there. It was certainly Christian McCaffrey's best performance. 106 yards on the ground, 71 through the air, so 177 all-purpose yards, 4 total touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air. And we started overtime here today by wondering if it's fair to kick off the Christian McCaffrey MVP campaign. I think we both agreed, yes, if he keeps this up, he's 100% going to be in the conversation. Nick Bosa, star defensive player for the 49ers, reigning defensive player of the year, was asked that question. Should McCaffrey be in the MVP conversation? Here's what he said.
Of course, yeah. Whenever he's out there, it changes everything with his ability to catch the ball and obviously run. I told him after today, he was sitting in front of me at the NFL honors, and hopefully I'm sitting in front of him and congratulating him.
I love Nick, but just
man, a few words.
I can't help but laugh whenever I hear him talk. Of course, yeah.
It feels like the gears are just grinding in his head trying to get words out. And I love Nick Bosa, obviously one of the best players in football. But with the media, it feels like he knows he has to do it, and he's just like, yeah, score points, I play football, and I go out there and get sacks, and yeah. Oh, Christian McCaffrey MVP, yeah, go Yay, team. You're like, okay. Like, thanks, Nick. Next guy. All you need is 2 questions. How did you feel you played today? How did the offense play? Goodbye, Nick. That's really it. But Nick. Oh, Nick Bosa.
What did Christian McCaffrey think of his performance today? He was asked about hurdling a defender on his 18-yard touchdown run. Ooh. He had 4 touchdowns in the game. This is McCaffrey talking about that play and his game as a whole.
I think it's pretty instinctual. Yeah, I don't think you don't plan those things, and that's why I love football. You can just go out there and be completely free. Obviously you got an assignment to do and a track and reads, but after that, it's just let it flow and play with instincts.
Be free, right? This offense is just allowing all of their playmakers freedom. And I think this goes back to what you said earlier, where everyone is kind of playing with one mind. Everyone knows where everyone's going to be. It's just clicking right now, and it gives these players the ability to be free, to not really think about that sort of thing. And when you have that kind of mental freedom, I think it unlocks them, and it allows you to be more, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but allows you to be more confident, certainly, in your team's ability. And it seems like that's a level that McCaffrey has reached with the 49ers that he was never afforded in Carolina, except for maybe a couple of years early in his career, because Cam Newton was incredible when he was at the peak of his powers. But for the vast majority of his career, he hasn't really ever been in an offense where he is given as much freedom, both by his own team and by defensive teams, but opposing teams by defenses, because in Carolina, he's the number 1 threat. Everyone is focused on stopping McCaffrey, and he still had fantastic seasons, 1,000 on the ground, 1,000 through the air, the first since Roger Craig to do that. But with this offense, he's just reaching a different level, and it's so fun to watch.
If I asked you, who are the players with 600-plus scrimmage yards and 7+ touchdowns in his team's first games of the season, who would you say? 3 guys.
This year?
No, just all time.
Okay, say the numbers again.
600-plus scrimmage yards and 7 touchdowns in his team's first 4 games of a season.
Okay, well, it's got to be McCaffrey this year.
McCaffrey's one of them.
I have no clue.
Emmitt Smith, 1995.
So I imagine Derrick Henry never did it.
Nope. Jim Brown.
That's it?
Just 3 guys.
I was going to guess Barry Sanders.
2 of them Hall of Famers.
Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith.
You can argue both of them being, if not the best running backs of all time, the best running backs of their generation by far.
Emmitt Smith, all-time leading rusher.
Exactly. Christian McCaffrey's in that category through 4 games this year. Now, that pace may not keep up, but right now, Christian McCaffrey, if we're handing out gold jackets in week 4, put it on, my friend. Put it on.
Unanimous.
Honestly, right now, Christian McCaffrey, it's hard to imagine anyone ever playing at a Jim Brown level, Emmitt Smith level in this day and age, with how running backs are used. 2 years and we're done with you. 3 years and we're done with you. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know, what is he, 27 years old, 28 years old, been in the NFL since 2017.
27.
So 7th year in football, 6th year in football. He might be the best version of himself he's ever been. Now, that goes into coaching, how they're utilizing him, but it's not like Shanahan's telling him where to go on the ground. He's finding holes where it seems like there's no holes. He is the ultimate X factor. Christian McCaffrey through 4 games is on par with Hall of Fame record-setting running backs. Insane. Just incredible what he's done through 4 games this year.
Another potential future Hall of Famer, Nick Bosa, was asked again about Christian McCaffrey, and if he knew McCaffrey was this good before he became his teammate, before last year, before this 4-game run for Christian McCaffrey this season. This is Nick Bosa on his star teammate, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I actually was talking about this with the D-line. As a D-line, I don't give too much respect to running backs usually, just because of how well we've played the run since we've been here. But I think my mind has changed on that a little bit. There's definitely some guys in the league that you have to really prepare for, and he's most definitely one of them.
So Christian McCaffrey is so good that he's changed Nick Bosa's mind about giving running backs credit. Yeah, I generally don't give running backs credit because we do a great job shutting them down. But Christian McCaffrey.
And overall, since Bosa's been here, in relation Shanahan's been here, it's been a running back by committee. You plug in someone, that guy gets hurt, the next guy comes and does the exact same thing. Breida, Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman.
Jeff Wilson,
exactly. But now it's like, no. You have one of the best, if not the best running back in football. And Nick Bosa sitting back saying, man, like, we have undervalued the running back position. That's incredible for a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and winner last year saying, you know what? Christian McCaffrey has changed my mind as to how I view running backs in football.
He's so good. And his head coach, Kyle Shanahan, was asked about him after the game as well. A similar question that was just asked of Nick Bosa. Hey, Kyle, could you possibly have imagined that this guy, McCaffrey, was going to be this good when you acquired him?
You hope so. I mean, you know he's that good of a player just watching him and stuff. I mean, I think the whole league does. But then when you get someone, or when you're around him personally, then you realize how much better he is just because of the intangibles that he has and really his whole makeup and how he works each week and how he prepares for a season from what he's been doing with us and OTAs all the way till now. I mean, he's as much of a professional as I've been around, and in order to make trades, you usually have to give a little bit more to get people. And then there's always a risk that they won't work out. There's injuries in this league. There's tons of stuff. But what you like to do is know who the guy you're betting on, and he's a dude that I think everyone would bet on. So,
yeah, everyone would bet on him, and it was a pretty safe bet. I mean, since he's starting games for the 49ers, he's scored at least one touchdown in every single game. I think for those of you into the betting market, I think he was like minus 225 to score a touchdown today, which you have to bet $225 to make $100 off of it. It's a very heavy favorite, very likely that he's going to score a touchdown. That is like unheard of. Most touchdown scoring bets are plus money, meaning you get more to win than you had to risk. Not for Christian McCaffrey. That's how good he was. He didn't score once. He didn't score twice. He didn't score 3 times. He scored 4 freaking touchdowns today, Sterling.
There's very little guarantees in life. One of them, the sun might come up tomorrow, right? The moon's going to shine at nighttime. And the third one is Christian McCaffrey is going to have 100-plus yards through the air on the ground and 1 touchdown per game.
Death, taxes, and McCaffrey dominating.
Honestly, yes. Death, taxes, and CMC. That's exactly what it is.
That is what it is.
He's so good.
He's incredible. I mean, and he makes it, I don't think effortless is the right word because he was taking big hits.
Yeah. I do get scared, though, whenever he pops up, like, his knees have to be the strongest knees ever. His quads.
You know what frightens me a little bit? He always tends to fall forward, and I've noticed this. He has a tendency of falling forward so much that he lands on his head when he falls forward. And don't land awkwardly. Don't have someone land on you and, push your head, bend your neck. He's so good. He's so important. He's so valuable that every time he goes down, it's kind of like Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is to an extreme because it takes 8 players to tackle him, and he takes a big hit because he delivers a big hit every time he has the ball. But with McCaffrey, every touch, one, it's like, oh my God, he's going to break this for a touchdown, isn't he? But then it's also like, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt. That's how just good he is, and at the same time, how important he is to this offense.
Deebo Samuel got 3 touches today. We talk about MVP McCaffrey, MVP CMC. Do you worry that once Deebo gets healthy and Brandon Aiyuk's back to 100% health and Kittle gets involved in the offense, that Christian McCaffrey's campaign for MVP might take a hit because of the offense he plays in? Kind of like how Purdy's knocked down because of the offense he plays in, where you can't give the guy too much credit because they're playing so well because it's the Kyle Shanahan offense.
I understand that. I'm not sure I would worry about it. I don't really care all that much about whether or not he wins MVP. But if you were like, oh, I have a Christian McCaffrey to win MVP bet lined up, I'd be a little bit worried. I think the Niners will eventually get to a point. I'm surprised they honestly haven't done it a little bit more. And I think it was a point from one of our callers. Yeah. I forget exactly who it was, wanting Kyle Shanahan to give McCaffrey fewer touches throughout the game. I mean, today, 20 carries, 8 targets, 7 catches. So 27 opportunities today. That's the most he's had in a game this year. He had 25 carries and catches week 1, 23 week 2, 23 week 3, 27 here today. That's maybe an area where, as the 49ers continue to space themselves out from everyone in the NFC West, Maybe they build a lead in the NFC as a whole. I think that is an area where perhaps you'll see Kyle Shanahan move away from, and maybe he would have more today if Elijah Mitchell was available. That's also a factor in this. J.P. Mason got the backup running back snaps today. He had 3 carries for 10 yards. I also had 1 catch for 13 yards in that first half. He was decent when called upon, but maybe part of it today specifically was just because their preferred RB2 was out in Elijah Mitchell.
It almost feels like every game it's someone else, but the consistent is Christian McCaffrey, where Aiyuk's great in this game. Well, then it's Debo. Then Kittle has a game, but Christian McCaffrey is always right there every time. You're like, man, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, whatever it is. It feels like that, Shanahan's picking and choosing, Aiyuk's going to have a good game. Debo fits the game plan here. Kittle, these linebackers stink. We're going to use him a lot. And he's like, you know what, McCaffrey, here's 20 carries guaranteed every single game.
Well, yeah, it's McCaffrey and then a rotating, like a merry-go-round for the others. All right, it's your turn, your turn, your turn. Like, it's McCaffrey's the consistent. He's the constant. He's always going to get you that. Oh, last week, Debo, it was your turn. Go out and dominate the Giants, right? Dominate those 2 rookie cornerbacks. Just run over them 24/7. This week, it's Aiyuk's turn. Maybe next week against the Cowboys, it'll be George Kittle's turn. You never know. But you're right. It does feel like you're at a point with Christian McCaffrey after the number of games that he's played with the 49ers where if he doesn't get you 80 on the ground, 20 through the air, you're a little shocked. That's how good he's been.
Are you worried about Debo's knee injury?
I'm always a little bit worried about Debo injuries in general because that's just how physical he is. This one doesn't really scare me all that much.
He played today.
The fact that he played.
Yeah.
And I think, again, similar to McCaffrey, I think the Niners will have the ability at some points during the stretch of the season to do things like today with Debo where you can just have him available and give him a handful of touches, but you don't feel the need to overwork him. So I think the Niners do have that playing in their favor. It's something that they can rely on when they have so many weapons offensively. They can kind of not necessarily game plan away from someone, but if they feel like they might not need a vintage Debo game, they could probably survive against a lot of teams without it.
But it does feel like that their schedule is only going to get harder.
Yeah.
Right? They have the Cowboys and the Browns who have an amazing defense out there in Cleveland. The Vikings are a little wishy-washy right now. Then you have the Bengals who are not playing great football. Then you have Jacksonville off the bye week, which you like to think will bounce back and be themselves of last year. Tampa Bay's a good defense, and you got Seattle, Philadelphia. Seattle, and I know we have a season ahead of us. A lot can happen, a lot can change. We've already seen Nick Chubb go down and Trevon Diggs go down, and you hope no one gets hurt on this team. But it kind of feels like that San Francisco's 4-0. We're happy. But looking forward, it's not going to get any easier, and I have plenty of faith they'll beat Dallas, and they'll be 8-0 to begin the year. But
8-0?
I think they'll be 8-0. They're better than Minnesota.
Whoa.
They're better than Dallas. They're better than Cleveland. They're better than the Bengals. I can argue, outside of one team, they're better than every single team they're going to play on their schedule.
8-0. You're already locking it in, huh?
Why not? Dallas, favorites. Browns, favorites. Vikings, favorites. Bengals, favorites. Jaguars, favorites. Buccaneers, favorites. Seattle, favorites.
What are you saying, 11-0?
I'm just saying that this team could be at that point. Now, again,
are they going to have a perfect season?
Undefeated! I'm just saying that right now, through a month of the season, with us saying they're the best team in football, look the most dominant, that when you're schedule watching, which isn't always the perfect, formula to use in picking wins and losses, San Francisco has one team on their schedule that you can point to and say, that game bothers me or that game could scare me. And even that game itself against Philadelphia, week 13 on the road, I could say I pick San Francisco if Philadelphia continues to struggle or continues to kind of meander their way through the season.
Yeah, maybe. I won't argue with you there. Getting a little ahead of yourself.
Of course I am. Because we're going to the Super Bowl. We're going to win.
I do think the other part here, when you're talking about usage and potentially overworking someone, I do think it was a major key for the Niners to get off to a hot start this year.
And be healthy.
And be healthy 100%. But last year, the last 2 years, they made the NFC Championship game. Slow starts.
Yeah.
And they still made the NFC Championship game. So I think the Niners have put an extra emphasis maybe on the first month of the season. Not saying they're going to take their foot off the gas pedal or anything, but all I'm saying is I think they had incentive to try to pull out all the stops in the first 4 or 5, maybe even 6 weeks of the season, because they knew this is where they struggled in past seasons, and it kind of put them behind the 8 ball. Specifically 2 years ago, they barely made the playoffs. If they had even a decent start to the season last year, now I know there were some weird circumstances with quarterback injuries, but if they had a decent start to last season, they would have been the 1 seed in the NFC instead of the 2.
Yeah.
You would have had the bye. The NFC title game would have been at home. Who knows how things change? So I think the Niners extra motivation to start really strong this year, and they have. Now we'll see how it goes the rest of the year. But
on top of that, though, if Seattle loses tomorrow, you now have given yourself a 2-game lead in the division. Not only are you 2 games ahead of them being 4-0 and them being 2-2, you're also 2-0 in the division itself.
Yeah.
So if you lose a game here or there, you're not going to end your season or put yourself behind the 8 ball, and you're still healthy. It feels like San Francisco, through 1 month, through 4 games, have put themselves in a perfect position to not only win the NFC West, but maybe win the entire NFC.
Yeah, and their eyes are on more than just winning the NFC West. They want the 1 seed in the NFC. The bye is so incredibly valuable in the playoffs, and now that's only 1 team gets the bye in the playoffs, it becomes even more valuable. So we'll see how it all does play out over the next handful of months as we continue through the NFL season. But before we get out of here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game, we got to hand out our game balls. The obvious one is Christian McCaffrey, 177 all-purpose yards and 4 total touchdowns. I'll just say that one to get it out of the way as a group, and we can each give out a game ball from there moving on. I guess I'll take the other obvious one, Brock Purdy. I'd argue this is his best game of the season, 20 for 21 through the air, 283 yards, did not turn the ball over, only took 1 sack, threw for 1 touchdown, rushed for 1 more on a QB sneak to kill the game, to ice the game down the stretch. He gets my game ball. Again, 20 for 21, 283 and a touchdown, 1 more on the ground, no interceptions. For me, best game of the season, Brock Purdy was today.
It's hard not to take Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, Brock Purdy was great today, really good, strong game. Brandon Aiyuk having the shoulder injury, how is he going to fare? How is he going to look? He didn't miss a beat. 6 catches, 148 yards through the air, 24, almost 25 yards.
Didn't find the end zone. Come on, Brandon.
But 3 catches over 25 yards, the longest being 42. But, me being a trickster, I'm going defense. I'm going to pick 2 players. Mainly linebackers.
Cheater.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw.
They were so good in the first half.
We talk about swarming. That's the motto, right? These 2 guys hunt. They swarm. They were tasked with stopping Joshua Dobbs' running ability. For a better half, they did. Stopping James Conner again, the 4th leading rusher in football coming into this game, they did. For a team that has burners like Hollywood Brown and Zach Ertz is a veteran tight end and Michael Wilson getting 2 touchdowns today, over the middle was almost non-existent for a quarterback like Josh Dobbs, who in an offense like Arizona's, they work the middle of the field and say, like Brock Purdy to a certain extent, feed your stars, feed your stars. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw almost took his stars away. Game balls, cut it in half. One side laces go to Warner, and the other side goes to Dre Greenlaw. Those are my game balls for the day.
And they both had 10 tackles in total. The next highest was a couple of players tied with 5, so more than double the tackles of everyone else across the defense. Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, they were fantastic. As always, for the 49ers, you add it all up and you get a 35-16 win for the San Francisco 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. The Niners are now 4-0. They stay perfect. One of 2 4-0 teams in the NFL, the Niners and the Philadelphia Eagles. That's last year's NFC Championship game participants. 4-0 Niners. Cardinals fall to 1-3. All right, that'll do it for Overtime here on this Sunday. We're back in almost exactly a week. It's at halftime right now of the Sunday night game. We'll be back on air right after Niners and Cowboys Sunday Night Football. It'll be myself, Grandy Sterling, and Alan Stiles. For now, though, this is Mark Grandy signing off. Make sure you're locked and loaded early tomorrow morning. Spadoni has you covered on the pregame show from 5 to 6. The morning roast after that, 6 to 10. And then Steiny and Goo, 10 to 2. Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6 for a Victory Monday, a Monster Monday on 95.7 The Game. For now, though, thanks so much for tuning in and have a fantastic rest of your Sunday evening.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV? That's a lot of time in front of one TV.